working. And that's a legacy of about the computer science department. And also coming to the college, we are listed in PM Usha Gram, only 13 colleges listed in PM Usha, and we are one among the colleges. And again, with the computer department, you can see head of the department, Beryl sir, and coordinators of this program, Dr. Bismin, Celine, and Dr. Jasir has applied for the second time this adult program. And this is the second time we are hosting this adult FDP program by the college. Again, coming to the topic, which is need of the hour. So I could just gone through the statistics and, uh, coming to the ministry also, there are very latest additions for ministry also. You people will be knowing that I foresee that is Indian Cyber Crime Coordination Center is established in 2020 under the Ministry of IT. And according to their statistics, up to the half of the 2025 itself, the cyber fraud happened in the digital payment system is Rs 1,000 crore per month. And if you are, accumulating for an year, they are expected to have 1.2 lakh crore of, uh, this cyber crime will be happening in the digital payment system. That's their expectation. That comes around, 0.7 percentage of the GDP. So there lies the importance of this particular FDP. And if you are looking into the skill gap also, the NASCOM states that 1 million job opportunities are waiting in the cyber security field. Only half of now it's served. Again, upskilling of the students and special certification program for the students will be benefited to fill this gap. Only by our educate or the educators like us, we used to say digital disruptive, not digital disruptive technologies. Again, we are become disruptive educators. Like every now and then we have to learn something, and that's why NEP also say we must be lifelong learners. So I'm very happy with my colleagues and with my Department of Computer Science. They have come up with a topic which is need of the hour. They will, that finds the skill gap and that also save the nation. And the FDP is for the 6 days FDP, though it is virtually. There will be a, exchange of knowledge and exchange of idea discussions will be there, and I hope that must be there so that to contribute the progress of our nation and progress of our students. Once again, I wish all the very best to all fellow participants, and also I take this opportunity to congratulate the Department of Computer Application to have this FTP program happening in our college. Thank you. Wish you all the very best.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable words and especially stating the relevance of our FDP's title. Moving ahead, it's now time to formally inaugurate this faculty development program. We are really honored to have with us Mr. M. Ashraf, the Secretary of the College Management Committee, to deliver the inaugural address. Over to you, sir. Sir, please.
Respected Principal, Chairman of this FDP program, esteemed resource persons, organizing committee members, faculty members, and dear participants. It is my great pleasure to honor to inaugurate this 6-day faculty development program on the highly relevant and forward-looking theme, securing the future, cyber security, forensics, and the world of blockchain, organized by the Department of Computer Applications, MES College, Marambally. We are living in an era where our lives are increasingly digital. Technology has become the backbone of all modern frameworks, from communication and commerce to education, governance, and healthcare. In such a digitally driven world, cyber security is not just a technical issue. It is a strategic, educational, and societal imperative. Today, the threats we face are wide-ranging, from cyber attacks and data breaches to identify theft and digital fraud. These are not hypothetical dangers. They are real and growing. In order to effectively counter these threats, we need a highly skilled workforce, and more importantly, we need knowledgeable educators who can train the next generation of cybersecurity professionals, researchers, and innovators. The digital acceleration we witness across every sector only underscores the urgent need of a robust understanding of cybersecurity, digital forensics, and blockchain technology. Cybersecurity remains our first and foremost line of defense in this new world, protecting systems, networks, and data from malicious attacks. Digital forensics plays a critical role in investigating and analyzing cybercrimes, ensuring that justice can be served and that digital evidence can stand up to scrutiny in legal and regulatory contexts. And blockchain technology is revolutionizing how we secure data, ensure transparency, and build digital trust, not only in finance, but across supply chains, healthcare, education, and governance. In this context, I would like to sincerely appreciate the Department of Computer Applications at Marambali College for the vision and commitment in selecting such a vital and timely theme. Your efforts in organizing this FDP reflect a deep awareness of the digital challenges ahead and responsibility we bear as educators to address them. I am confident that this FDP will serve as a powerful platform to explore the evolving dimensions of digital security and to equip ourselves with the tools, knowledge, and mindset required to educate, guide, and protect future generations in the digital age. With these words, I am pleased to declare the 6-day faculty development program on securing the future, cybersecurity, forensics, and the world of blockchain officially open. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for your inspiring and motivating address, and also for highlighting the importance of this FDP. We truly appreciate your encouragement and support as we embark on this learning journey. To conclude this inaugural ceremony, I now invite Dr. Jasser MP, co-coordinator of the ADAL FDP, to propose the vote of thanks. Over to you, sir.
Good evening, everyone who gathered over here in this platform. Respected Secretary, College Management Committee, Mr. M.M. Ashraf, sir. Principal, Professor Dr. Mansoor Ali, sir. Department Head, Dr. Joseph Daril, sir. My fellow coordinators, my colleagues, and dear participants. We know that ADAL, the initiative by AICTE in FDP, which aims to provide faculty development programs in thrust areas, including engineering, management, and pedagogy. We know that India produces the largest number of engineers, and we have a great pool of qualified graduates and postgraduates, often finds living in India and abroad. But yet it remains a mystery, even though we are a developing country, when compared to developed nations like USA and China. India is yet to produce a major venture which can directly pose a challenge to maybe, let's say, ChatGPT or a Google. We don't have a technological behemoth which is indigenously developed in India. And various government committees in India has truly pointed out, like Anil Kapoorkar Committee on IITs, the AICTE reports on engineering education, Radhakrishnan Committee on Accreditation. Many committees in India have pointed out that India produces the largest number of engineers, yet we face critical challenges in maintaining employability, research output, and quality. Whereas developed nations like USA, they constantly focus on research and development. They fund massively to drive their knowledge frontiers, and that disparity is very clear. It is in this front that AICTE conducts various initiatives like this FDP to bridge that gap closer. I'm not taking much time. So the idea of this FDP is to give a proper introduction to cybersecurity, forensic, and the world of blockchain. And we believe the experts handling this in this session, the participants will immensely benefit from the experts who are handling in this session, and I request all the participants to make full use of the expertise and make full use of this workshop. Without taking much time, as you all know, MES is the largest educational agency in India, and the greatest thing about MES is it is committed to the empowerment of the marginalized communities, and it has done a commendable role in uplifting and empowering such marginalized communities. And the local committee of MES here, we have been blessed to have a focused managing committee with a clear vision on how to lead higher education sector in Kerala. And our secretary, Mr. M.M. Ashraf sir, has been a constant support in this journey. I take this opportunity to thank Mr. M.M. Ashraf for delivering the inaugural address and offering us constant support and guidance throughout the length of this program. Also, I take this opportunity to thank our principal, Professor Dr. Mansoor Ali PP, for the presidential address and constantly guiding us. Also, my thanks goes to Dr. Joseph Deril sir, Head of Department, for the warm welcome, and to my fellow coordinators, Ms. Selin and Dr. Bismin Sharif, for nicely coordinating this program. Finally, I take this opportunity to thank all the participants, colleagues, and students whose presence adds value to this event. We look forward to a fruitful and engaging FDP in the coming days. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, sir, for your heartfelt words of gratitude. With this, we officially conclude the inaugural ceremony of our ADAL FDP. Thank you all the dignitaries to grace this occasion with your valuable presence. We now move directly to today's technical sessions. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our distinguished resource person for today's session, Dr. S. J. Ganesh, currently serving as Assistant Professor at the Indian Institute of Information Technology, Kottayam. Dr. Jai Ganesh is a passionate cybersecurity educator and researcher with over 12 years of academic experience. He holds PhD in cryptography along with a strong background in electronics and communication. His research contributions are noteworthy. He has authored numerous corpus in text and Web of Science publications, along with several book chapters, and authored 3 books in the areas of wireless communication, cognitive radio, and cybersecurity. In addition, he has filed 3 patents on innovative applications of IoT and security technologies. As a trainer and consultant, Dr. Jai Ganesh has successfully executed funded consultancy projects in collaboration with industries on AI-driven trustworthiness in industrial IoT, image encryption, and secure communication systems. He has also conducted specialized training programs for Kerala Police and designed hands-on cybersecurity courses for the Cyber Commando training program under the Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India. He is a certified ethical hacker and also holds professional certifications from Cisco, IBM, Google, and EC Council, making him exceptionally versatile in both academic and applied aspects of cybersecurity. His contributions to knowledge sharing extended beyond classrooms. He runs a popular YouTube channel, Gurukula, with over 16,000 subscribers dedicated to networking and cybersecurity learning. With his blend of academic rigor, industry collaboration, and training expertise, Dr. Jay Ganesh continues to inspire and mentor the next generation of cybersecurity professionals. We are indeed privileged to have him as the resource person for today's two sessions. For the session one is Cyber Threat Landscape and session two, Cyber Kill Chain and Domains of Cybersecurity. Let's give a warm welcome to Dr. S. Jay Ganesh. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. I hope I'm audible for everyone.
Yeah, audible, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the brief introduction. So before I start my technical session, I'm grateful and I would like to convey my thanks to the esteemed members of the management and the members of administration for allowing me to share my knowledge in this esteemed forum, to the esteemed faculty members across the country. And a special thanks to the head of the department and the coordinators, Dr. Bismin ma'am, and your fellow co-coordinators for choosing me as a resource person. I'm happy to share. I'm happy to be a member of this particular FDP on this auspicious occasion. And I would like to record my heartfelt congratulations to the department, the heads of the department, and to the coordinators, and for the entire organizing team for securing this Atal FDP for the second time, as like your principal have mentioned. So I'm grateful over here. And from the records of MES College Marampalli, I see the prestigiousness and the precision where you stand in the academic forum is really commendable. So with this note, I think I can start my session today. And I also request the participants, and I also encourage the participants to ask questions whenever they feel like if I'm going off the topic and if you could not able to get what I'm trying to convey. Always feel free to stop me in the middle and then you can raise your questions. Let's spend a couple of minutes and then we can proceed. The entire objective of this particular session is you should learn something and you should enrich your knowledge in the field of the topic which I'm assigned. So with that, I'll take a couple of minutes to share my screen. Please allow me to share my screen. Yes, I hope my screen is visible to everyone.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you. So with that, having said, let me move on to my official session today. So here, so first thing first, though ma'am have given me a brief introduction, I have nothing else to share with you. So just to quickly recap what this ma'am have said. So I'm, of course, I'm a faculty at IIIT Kottayam, and I also create content related to cybersecurity, networks, and wireless communication on my YouTube channel, Gurukula. So this channel was created as a sign of promoting free education, and there should not be any barriers and there should not be any paywalls for accessing the educational content. So I spend most of my free time in creating the content and then I just post it in my channel, and by the God's grace it's around 16,000 subscribers now, and yeah, we are slowly building. So, and with that, I'm a certified ethical hacker too. And from my background, as Bismin, as like Dr. Bismin ma'am have already said, I have an educational background in electronics and communication. but I always had a passion towards this security, and this cybersecurity was really promising, and that was my interests. And then I slowly started leaning towards the cybersecurity, and then I've totally entered, and finally I've landed over here. So I'm happy to connect with all the participants over here. And if you want to get in touch with me, this is my LinkedIn account. So I'm happy to connect with you all in the LinkedIn. So, and then that's my WhatsApp channel, which I run for free. That's like in community where we can share information across the things that are happening, which is related to Gurukula. So that's a spam-free community. If you are interested, then you can join over that. I'll ensure all these links are being shared through the coordinators once the session is over. So with that, I have been given 2 sessions, and I will be continuously taking the sessions. Session 1 is focused on cyber threat landscape, and session 2 is focused on cyber kill chain and domains of cybersecurity. So though the sessions are officially segregated into 2 parts, I would like to take it as one single session. Like for the next 3 hours, we are going to discuss, and we are going to exchange our knowledge on the topic I could name it as cyber threat intelligence. And while discussing this cyber threat intelligence, I will really connect how is the cyber threat intelligence is connected to cyber threat landscape, what is it exactly, and along the discussions we must and we should learn about cyber kill chain. And then we will also discuss what are all the various domains in which this intelligence is playing a critical role. So that's how I have planned my session, and towards the end and towards the mid of the session and towards the end of the session, I have 2 demonstration sessions. And I encourage people, those who are actually listening, and if you are following along, then I encourage you people also to do it side by side. So I encourage that as well. Yeah. So with that, this is the session which I have just planned for today, and we will see how the sessions are being carried out. So first, I would like to talk something about introduction to threat landscape. And then slowly I will try to address what is the need for threat landscape, and we will see a big picture of what exactly the threat landscape is. And slowly we will try to enter into the cyber threat intelligence, and we will try to see how to enrich raw data into actionable intelligence. I think that's the core part of the first half, I could say. So here I have the things to cover about how do we get the information and how do we enrich that particular data so that it becomes an actionable intelligence. And then we will go with the flow. There are lots of subtopics which is hidden in between in this particular topic, and we will go according to the flow there. I don't want to spam this slide with too much of contents. So then we will, once that is over, then we will talk about the tools for cyber threat intelligence. So what are all the tools? And being a fan of free resources, I will be sticking on only with the open resource, and I will be sticking on to the tools which is free for everyone to use. So there is no paid softwares, no enterprise version, and I will be avoiding the tools which has paywalls in between. So it's completely free of cost. And then finally, I will walk you through the platform called Open CTI, which is an open source intelligence, cyber threat intelligence platform, which is open source. And you can also deploy your own instances later after this particular session. So, and then finally, I will conclude everything in a form of hands-on and the simulation exercises. If it is a training program, I would have given you a simulation exercise, but since this is a virtual environment and because of the technical barriers, I will walk you through how this exercises are being done, and this could be taken as a demonstration session. And finally, the closing statements. So that's what I have for this entire 3 hours. So first of all, if I just want to tell you, understanding threat landscape. So could someone in the meeting, I could see there are more than 200 plus people in the meeting. So what is threat landscape and how do you define threat landscape? You can talk to me or you can post your messages on the chat. I'm just looking to your chats. I would be happy if there is some interaction because we are going to get connected for the next 3 hours. So yeah, rightly said, understanding cyber threats. Okay, maybe I will make this question a little simple for you. Threat means interrupt some regular action. Okay. That's great. Fine. So let me make this question a little simpler to you so that everyone can relate and then everyone can answer it. Right. So let us assume that our home, our sweet home, where do we live daily, is a valuable asset. Okay. So does your home have any threats? If this is an asset, does your home have any threats? Yes. Of course, yes, your home has certain threats. So already I've got some threats. So opponents, third parties, intruders, and then what are all the threats that your home have, which you feel like it's an valuable asset for you? Obviously, our homes are valuable assets for us. What are all the threats that you feel for your home? This is an valuable asset. What are all the threats? Something that has potential to cause harm, danger, and damage. That's right, sir. So understanding. Natural calamities, yes, that's a threat for your home. For home, it may be a window. Yes, I'll tell you the difference. When I say threat, a threat is something which seems like it's a danger to you. So having a window is not a threat. That is something else. We have a different definition for that. I do understand your point, but cyber, any disaster, spyware, data sharing. Now, what threats that you have to your home? We are all staying at our homes, right? So what are all the threats that our homes have? Yeah, thief, correct. Someone can rob and a lock with a duplicate key. Someone else may have your key. They might have taken the key stamp from somewhere. Robbery, yes, that is said. Thief. Are you worried only about the robbery? So is that the only threat? Is that the only threat that we have to our home? Yeah. Stalking, yes, correct. So hidden cameras, courier people, those who come like delivery people. So we don't know what is their intentions. Rain and damage of civil construction. Yeah, natural calamities. Very good. Nice. So hidden cameras, environmental threats, disasters. Yes, that's taken. So high voltage power lines, obviously that's a different and valid perspective. If there is any high voltage lines, that will potentially cause your cause damage. Fire accidents. Yeah, the CCTV cameras that we have for the security purposes can be hacked. Correct. Hacking cameras. That is also right. Because during the inaugural session, Principal Sir have rightly said that we do not know how many attackers are there with us in this particular session itself. And that's very hard to identify also. That's very hard to find out whether this particular person or this particular group of people or this particular community is doing something malicious or it is doing something with an bad intention. Yeah, that is 100% right. Your principal have beautifully said that we don't have that knowledge. So that is where actually this threat landscape come into the picture. Oh, I see very valid advances. So privacy, disaster, insider threat, social engineering, yeah, all of these things are related to this. Okay, let me put you another question. How do you get to know what are all the threats? Now you have just said thief is one threat, correct? And then courier people or Swiggy or Zomato delivery people or the other threats. So actually you have rightly mentioned these are all the threats and natural calamities. How did you came to know that these are all the real threats for your home? How did you came to know? Source of information I'm talking about. How did you came to know that your home may be robbed? How did you came to know that your home may get collapsed in a natural calamity? How did you came to know that there might be someone who could intrude into your home in a form of courier delivery person? How do you came to know? Based on the incidents, right? That's the exact and pinpointed answer which I'm looking for. Practically, we have seen, great, you are listening to these informations. Sometimes you might have experience through news channels, that's right, from others' experiences. I do understand. Sometimes someone will inform you, correct? So while talking with your friends and doing chit chatting, they will say that, hey, in the next street, this incident have happened and this much of gold have been taken. And warning, correct, the police department and the local law enforcement people will actually try to warn you that there are some suspicious activities prevailing in this particular area, and we are warning the people to be safe. Correct. So these are all the different areas from which you actually came to know that this is actually vulnerable. Correct. Yeah. Like that, let us assume that, see, even for your home, these are all the things. Correct. So how do you safeguard your home? How do you safeguard your home? So you are securing the access by being aware. Okay, by being aware, and then response strategies by proper security, alerting system. Yeah, you will alert some, if there is someone who is intruding into your home, you will put like an alarm, or you will put some security cameras. You will install some cameras through which you can see through who is standing on the other side without opening the door, without giving him the access. Ensuring authentication, right? You might have the door closed, it might have a lock, and then, yeah, you might have some pets and then some dogs, especially for security purposes. So these are all the various security measures that you have taken to safeguard your home. Correct? Yes, all good. So you audience are really awesome, and then you are really precise to the point. So you have really made my task of explaining what a threat landscape is very simple. So see, you have invaluable assets, and then you know that there are some threats. And how do you came to know about there are certain threats? Through some informations which is scattered across several places. It can be internet, it can be news channels, it can be newspapers, it can be from your friends, it can be from your neighbors, or through social media messages, reels, whatever it is, correct, or through feeds. So you collect information from various sources, and then if there is any information which is relevant to you, or which you feel like this particular threat may affect my home. For an example, yesterday, this next street, some people have robbed a home and disguising themselves as a Swiggy delivery people or food delivery people. So what you will do, you will never allow, and you will take an action against that particular threat. Now you know the threat. So people, those who are actually disguised like a Swiggy delivery, may be a threat. So you will put an access control mechanism there. You will never allow a Swiggy delivery person inside your home. Maybe you will stop them at your gate. You will come out, you will step out of your home, or you can take the food from them, or you will ask the security person to collect the food, and someone you trust can come and deliver to your home. You will take some security measures, right? So this is the entire cycle of threat landscape. Threat landscape is actually understanding what are all the possible threats that my assets could have. So even for your home, which is financially worth of maybe in lakhs or sometimes in crores, we are taking these many security principles. Obviously, but with the emotional and the values, it's priceless. That's our sweet home. But I'm talking about the money aspect. So just for the home, which is worth of lakhs and crores, we are taking these many steps and these many precautionary measures to safeguard our home. So think about an organization which has invested millions of dollars and serving the entire country and the entire globe through their services like Google, IBM, Microsoft, right? So we can keep naming very big companies who have a very big infrastructure which is prevalent and which is very much important for the proper functioning of today's internet, right? There are big players in the market, so think about their level of awareness that they should have. So even actually they cannot take any chances, because even a small mistake may disrupt the entire services and the entire internet may go down, right? So that's what something we call it as threat landscape, and they cannot take any chances. They should be aware of all the possible threats that is happening across the globe, not within India, not within the neighboring country, but spanning across the globe. So that's what something we call it as threat landscape. So here I'm presenting you a simple definition of what exactly a threat landscape is. So we can say that a threat landscape is simply a big picture of all the dangers that exist in the digital world today, right? And then it includes the type of attackers out there, from hackers to cyber criminals to nation to states. And I assume that you already have these things. Yes, sir. The recent example of CoinDCX servers breach. All of these breach or has across the country, there are several breaches that is happening, and that is right. And all these breaches are directly impacting the Indian economic status as well. So yeah, so getting back, so it includes the type of attackers. When I say type of attackers, based on the behavior, there are three types, and one is white hat, black hat, and then gray hat. White hat are ethical hackers who do hacking for the good purposes. Black hat are the malicious people, those who do hacking for the bad intentions, like stealing information, disrupting the services, taking down server or infrastructure. It could be anything malicious or which is not ethical. There are gray hat hackers. So these gray hat hackers will stand in between. So they do not attack for anything malicious, but they will try to attack and for fun, and they won't do any malicious things. So sometimes they may report and sometimes they may not report. So these things are gray hat hackers. So each and every country will have a state or nation sponsored hackers to spy their enemy countries or the neighboring countries or across the globe. Is there anything that is happening against, or is there anything happening which is not good for our country? So there are state sponsored hackers who have enough money, enough infrastructure, and then enough patience to scan across the globe and to spy the neighboring countries. So threat landscape is just like understanding the various dangers that exist in the digital space. So their motive, their technique, all of these things you have to know, right? So that's what something we call it as threat landscape. So moving on to the next topic, what is the need for a threat landscape? Why do I actually need something like a threat landscape? Why should I know my threats? Because threat landscape is required because it gives organization a big picture view of current and emerging cyber risk. As we have already mentioned, we don't know who is going to attack. We don't know how are they going to attack. We don't know which part is going to get affected of my organization, right? So we don't know anything. So it is better to prepare ourselves for the worst case. So whatever be the attack, as long as we are not particularly targeted, if it is a common attack, we should not become a victim of that particular attack. So without it, defenses are blind. So you have installed some security measures at your home. It could be CCTV cameras, it could be a security system which has PIN number to enter inside your home, or it could be a simple watchman who is sitting in front of your home. That is also a security measure. See, without knowing the threat, how could you have been done all these security measures, right? So without knowing what are all the threats, you cannot effectively secure the asset. So there might be some threat actors, there might be some thief who may intrude into your home and then they may steal something valuable from your home. So that knowing this is the threat, you have actually implemented some sort of security principles, correct? So similarly, for the big organizations, without knowing what are all the threats, defenses are blind. We cannot defend effectively. So by understanding the threat landscape, we can actually able to anticipate who might attack us and why they should attack us, correct? And then, so there you can actually prioritize the security measures and resources effectively. So by looking, say for an example, you got an intel from your local police department that there is a group of people who is revolving in your area who are specialized in stealing, especially the gold. Correct. This is the intel given. So this particular intel might be useful to some people and might not be useful to some people, because now you know the intention of that group. Correct. This particular group is especially focusing, or this particular group is intentionally stealing only the gold. So this is a threat for the people who have gold at their home. And this intel does not affect the people who have safely saved their gold in the bank lockers, or it won't affect the people who doesn't have any gold at all. Correct. So whenever you get an intel, not every intel is important for you. Correct. So it depends on what type of asset that you have, and it actually depends on what type of infrastructure that you maintain. Is that infrastructure vulnerable to any stuffs? Correct. So based on that particular intel, you can prioritize which intel I have to prioritize first, and you can measure the resources effectively. And all the security principles are not free. Obviously, we have to spend money for that. CCTV cameras, you have to spend for that, and special alerting systems, you have to spend in addition. Even a security, you have to give him a salary. So like that, it's on the cost basis. So, and then you can actually recognize the latest tactics and vulnerabilities. Like how are they entering inside your home? What is the technique that they are following to enter inside your home? Are they bureau pulling, or are they breaking the locks, or they are specialized in cracking the PIN numbers? What are they using? What are their tactics? And what are all the vulnerabilities that you have from your side? As one of the participants have rightly said, there might be window. Yes, Windows could be a vulnerability here. Windows is not actually a threat. That's what I said. I will clarify it later. So here it is. Windows is actually a vulnerability and it's not a threat, right? So threat is the thief or the group who is trying to steal. And window becomes a vulnerability when it is not protected with the steel grill. It is only glass, so that it is easily breakable, and that will create an entry point to the group, the malicious group. I hope the context is clear till now. So threat landscape actually tells you many things. So let us assume that we are all the SOC analyst or threat analysis. Okay. So for the next some time, or for the next few hours, we will assume ourselves as SOC analyst. SOC analyst is nothing but SOC is like Security Operations Center, which many of the major companies will have a separate setup. So they will actively monitor what are all the threats that is coming to their company, and they may offer this as a service for their clients as well. So they have to monitor what are all the threats that is being hitting to the client companies as well. So assume that we are all a SOC analyst or cyber threat analyst. Both of them duties will most of the time overlap. Okay. So what are all the threats that are forming? So by reading or by collecting information from the landscape, you actually get to know that what are all the threats that are forming. When I say what are all the threats can be of multiple form. So it can be malware, it can be phishing, or it can be a ransomware attack, it can be anything. And the second sort of information is where they are likely to hit the company, right? So where they are likely to hit, it can be focusing on a particular industry. It can be a financial sector, or it can be any infrastructural company, or it can be any critical infrastructures like power grid, water treatment plants, etc. And then it could be any networks too, if there is any vulnerabilities on the network. Doubts? Right. So, and it could be a vulnerability for devices as well. So any endpoint devices, say for an example, vulnerable software installed on your Android phone or iOS phone might be vulnerable to any attacks, so that the attacker can able to get into your phone and he can spy you. And then the third thing is how severe they are. So this is a very critical aspect which you have to monitor, because as I said before, not all the intels are critical for you. Some intels might be irrelevant for you as well, right? So say for an example, if there is an intel which is focusing only on the financial sector and you are not at all running anything which is related to financial stuffs, you are completely on the construction side. So you don't have to bother about those intels who is targeting the financial sectors. There are specific groups which focus only on the financial areas. So that we will discuss once we are talking about the Metair attack. So these are all the critical vulnerabilities and state-sponsored actors. So if it is a vulnerability, then you'll have to patch up your softwares. And if the attack is from the state-sponsored actors, then you will have to really strengthen your intrusion systems, and you have to really scan for the entire infrastructure, and you should find out if there is any vulnerabilities that is present. And the next one is, what can you do? Prepare and defend. So what can you do to prepare and defend? So if it is in software vulnerability, maybe you can patch it up, or you can continuously monitor. So far, if you are not being attacked till now, it's good. And then you can actually monitor if there is any attacks that is coming inside your network. And then you could strengthen or you could tighten your defense tool. So this is what a SOC analyst will actually get to know when he is collecting information or when he is collecting data from the threat landscape. And there is one thing which I just wanted to tell you. There is no single silver bullet for security. So there is nothing like, sir, install this particular software, it's going to save your entire organization. So there is no silver bullet like that. Okay, because we don't know where exactly the threat come from, and we don't even know what the threat is. Sometimes it can be malware, sometimes it can be an phishing attack too. Sometimes your threat comes to your organization through email. Sometimes threat comes to your organization through some insiders. Sometimes threat come to your company through misconfiguration. So we don't know from where the threat comes in, right? And who actually comes in. We don't know anything. So without knowing any information, we cannot able to provide one single solution or one silver bullet kind of thing to safeguard our thing. So this is where we are forced, or we are interested, or we are directed to learn different aspects of this cyber threat landscape. Yeah. So here, the first one is threat actor. So you need to know about the threat actor because it actually tells you who is attacking. I have made this slide in a very short form so that you can really understand the core of this particular topic. Maybe you can spend some time on elaborating or doing a simple research on that. But keep in mind that threat actors is one thing which you have to focus on. So threat actors is like who is attacking. And the second one is threat vectors. So all these terminologies are really important when we are talking about cyber threat intelligence. We have not entered into cyber threat intelligence till now, but before entering into cyber threat intelligence, there are some prerequisite kind of things, especially like these terms and these domains. So threat vectors. So threat vectors are like how they attack. Are they using some softwares, or are they using a dedicated tools, or they are exploiting some vulnerabilities? What are they doing? So threat vectors. And then threat surface, it's where they attack. If you have a database, are they attacking the database, or are they attacking the firewall, or are they attacking the network itself, or are they attacking the endpoint devices? What are they attacking, right? So that is something we call it as threat surface. And the next one is threat intelligence, which is what our core discussion today. So threat intelligence is all about knowledge gathering, and we will be talking more about how to gather information about the threat landscape. So threat intelligence is the core area. And then vulnerability management, which actually talks about fixing the weaknesses And threat hunting is one area where you proactively search for any vulnerabilities. You don't have to wait for an attacker to come and exploit your company. So you will have to proactively search. This is where the offensive security offensive security comes into the picture. So that white hat hackers, ethical hackers, so they will try to execute all the procedures which the malicious people will do, and they will try to identify if any piece of your organization is vulnerable to attack. So that's threat hunting. And threat emulation. So threat emulation is also a part of red teaming. So here they will simulate the attackers itself. So let's take for an example. I have given you an example like this particular group of people will be stealing especially the gold. So here threat emulation can be considered like I will be calling 2 or 3 people who can imitate or who can recreate how these malicious people will enter inside my home. I will ask them to try to steal the gold inside my home. So what these people will do is they will try to imitate those malicious people. And then they will give you the report. Sir, these are all the various areas where these people could able to come in and finally have access to your gold. I can able to take it. Right. So that is what something we call it as threat emulation. We are actually simulating. This is like red teaming activities. Right. And next one is incident response, which is completely something called as blue teaming. And if you are not aware of red and blue teaming, I will just give you a brief introduction now. So here, incident response is how to handle the attack. Assume that the attack has happened. We cannot be aware for the, actually we are aware, but we cannot predict each. Yeah, so we cannot expect many attacks, or we cannot and then we cannot be vigilant for all the type of attacks that is coming up, correct? So sometimes we may be attacked and sometimes we may be under the attack, correct? So there is something called the incident response during the attack, or once the attack has started on your organization. How are you going to stop it? How are you going to safeguard your company, and how are you going to stop the attackers without further penetrating into your company? So that's what we call it as incident response. And while talking this, I was telling you that offensive and defensive, red teaming and blue teaming, there are 2 aspects of cybersecurity. One is offensive security and another one is defensive security. Offensive security, first I will tell you defensive security. Defensive security is like safeguarding the assets that you have. So like whatever that you did to your home comes under defensive security practices. You are installing a door, you are employing a security, and then you are installing CCTV cameras. All these things are defensive part. And when we talk technically, we install firewalls, and then we do make access control, and we enforce passwords, and we will ask people to put down the strong passwords, and we will set the password policies, and we will set up the firewall rules. Sometimes your institutions might sometimes your institutions might restrict access to certain websites. These are all comes under defensive practices. And people, those who are working in defensive practices, we call them as exactly firewall. That's what I just said. So these people is what something we call it as blue teamers. So that's just a color and formal color representation. These people we call it as blue teamers. Yeah, that's a valid addition. Intrusion detection systems, intrusion prevention systems, firewalls, all these security measures that you take to secure your computer, secure your digital assets, we call it as defensive security. On the other side, on contrast, we have something called offensive security. Offensive security is like imitating the attackers. Okay, so that's what something we call it as red teamers. Okay, so this red teamers, they will actually try to hunt the threat, and they will try to emulate certain attackers. So they will follow all the principles, all the tools exactly like how the attackers would work. And you may ask me, how will they get to know that how the attackers will work? And we have a template for that. Not all the attackers will necessarily follow the template, but most of the time there will be an overlap for that particular template. So yeah, so that is an basic differentiation between intrusion, blue teamers and then the red teamers, right? And the last one is trends and forecasting, so that you should be in a position to predict what may come in the future. So that's what, so these are all the various areas which comes under threat landscape. When we are talking about threat landscape, we have to talk about all these things, but it's not possible for us to address all of this, so that I'm just trying to pick one topic, which is threat intelligence, because when we start talking about threat intelligence, it almost covers all of these areas, because intelligence is something that we have to collect, and data is not intelligence, information is not intelligence. Example of knowledge gathering, sir. Sir, I'm coming, ma'am, I'm coming to that. I'll tell you what knowledge gathering is, and how do we collect knowledge also, I will tell you. So yeah, here is a brief description of threat actors. So threat actors are like who is attacking, right? So individuals, it can be an individual or the group. So who is behind the cyber attacks with different motives. Motives can be different. So it can be financial gain, it can be an espionage, or it can be an activism. So it may be some political causes as well. And during this Olympics also, there might be, there was an espionage that was happening, defaming the Olympic people that they are taking bribe, and some deep faked videos have been circulated on the internet. So that disrupts the political thing, and especially during the elections, we may see this campaigns that is running. So that will try to influence people in a wrong way, so that they may vote for a different person. So that is what all these things are happening. So examples is like the threat actors can be nation or statewide operators, so cyber criminal gangs or the groups, or hacktivists or insiders too. When I say insiders, they are disgruntled employees. When I'm not happy with my organization, I may do something malicious for my organization for the benefit of money. So I can also be a threat actor for my institute. So that's what insiders are. And what are all the actions that they will do? So tracking the attacker group, that's the only action that you can take. Okay. And second one is threat vectors. It talks about how they attack, and here it actually defines what are all the methodologies and pathways these attackers use to deliver their attack. Okay, how am I delivering the attack? Am I talking to you and then getting the password? This is what something we call it as social engineering, right? Or I'm sending you an email and then you are clicking on that email so that I'm getting your email ID and password. This is phishing, which is one among the technique of social engineering, right? So, or I'm scanning your computer and then I'm finding that there is a software which is having some vulnerability, and I'm exploiting that vulnerability and I'm taking access to your computer. And this is something what we call it as hacking. So we don't know how am I attacking you. So threat vectors are like their methods, that how they deliver the attack. So some examples are phishing emails, malwares, malicious websites, and then supply chain attacks, insider misuse. So I have addressed all of these things. Malicious websites is like, what I will do is I will host a website and then I will load some malwares in that particular website, and I will ask you to visit the website, because when I send you a link you will not click. So what I will do is, have you seen this website? This website is offering 20% off on new iPhone purchases with this particular card. You just go to that website, copy the code, put it in iStore, you will get that offer. So there is no clicking involved. You are actually visiting the website, and at the background there might be some malware which gets downloaded to your machine, and then it just drops a piece of software which may connect back to my machine, so that I will have complete access to your systems and computers. So that's something we call it as malicious, attacking through malicious websites. And then threat surface, which is like where the attacks are from. So all possible points in the system or organization that an attackers can exploit. Actually, we cannot precisely say this is where the attackers will come in. So all the doors which is not strong is an entry point. Okay. So, and then some examples, or it could be, so they can attack your service, they can attack the endpoints. Endpoints is like attacking the mobile phones. Let's take for an example, I have my phone here, and if my phone got infected, I'm coming to my institute, I'm connecting to my institute's Wi-Fi. So I'm giving them a way to connect enter into my institute's network. So that's the something we call it as endpoints. Doubts? Right. So it can be IoT devices, it can be some sort of sensors and cloud services, or sometimes APIs. APIs are nothing but it's like an application programming interface. So when you want to use the services of other application, you will use APIs in that. So these APIs are most of the time belonging to the third parties. So they may not be fully compiling with your security policies. Fine. So that's something we call it as APIs. So vulnerability can be in any portion or in any part of this infrastructure. So what you can do is you can just actually attack surface management tool. There are lots of tools which effectively monitors all the endpoints, all the things, and some of the notable tools are Tenable, ASM, Qualys, and then so these are all the tools. But these tools are not free of cost. Some are free, some are not free. So moving on to the next vector, it's like threat intelligence. It's about it. Threat intelligence is all about knowledge gathering. So collecting, analyzing, and sharing information about the threats. That's what something we call it as intelligence, right? And threats to support proactive defense. And some sort of examples are threat intelligence platforms. We have certain platforms like MISP, OpenCTI, and then Anomaly. And we have some feeds also from VirusTotal and all those stuffs. Some of these tools we will be walking you through today. And finally, actions can be IOCs. And these terminologies might be new for you. While walking you through the topic, I will be addressing each and every single term here. So you just keep in mind that threat intelligence is something related to knowledge gathering. So vulnerability management is all about fixing the weaknesses. It's all about identifying, prioritizing, and remediating actually it is remediating security flaws in the system. And some sort of tools that is used for vulnerability management is Nessus, OpenVAS, Qualys, and Rapid7. So OpenVAS and Nessus have a free version, and the rest of the things are proprietary. So some of the actions are you can scan the systems, it can actually manage the patch, and it can prioritize the risk based on the severity. And threat hunting is all about actively searching networks and systems for hidden threats by bypassing the traditional defenses. Sometimes your OTPs can be bypassed. So there is something called as swim swapping. So using that swim swapping, I can get all the OTPs which is actually forwarded to your mobile, and so that I can get all those passwords or OTPs, and I can bypass. So there are stuffs like that. So examples are you can implement a SIEM software like Splunk or ELK, and there are softwares like EDR, so endpoint detection and response like CrowdStrike, Sentinel, and Carbon Black. And sometimes you can write ERR rules. So this is like configuring your IDS and firewall kind of stuff. So by simply writing the rules, you can just restrict the access to the internal system. And third one is hypothesis driven hunts. Maybe you are just feeling like there might be some vulnerability. Say for an example, you are receiving an email with some malicious attachment, and your hypothesis says that this could be a malicious attachment based on some intel or your instinct, right? So that's how this hypothesis driven is. You are giving it to some subject expert, and they will be analyzing it, and then they will tell you whether it is really malicious or it is good to open it on your system. So the last set of threat landscape topics are threat emulation, incident response, and then trends and forecasting. So here is a brief discussion and what are all the actions that you can take for this. So especially when it's threat emulation, it's like red team exercises. So what, as a red team person, what I will be doing is an offensive security professional will come to your company, and they will tell you that your company is vulnerable to this particular areas. So we will try to conduct a penetration test on this particular areas. And then if you agree, then they will be signing up an agreement with you, which means you are actually authenticating them to do or to conduct a penetration test on your company. They will try to identify the vulnerabilities, and they will give you the report, which is confidential. An incident response is like you have a structured process of detecting, analyzing, containing, eradicating. This is a set of sequences which everyone will follow. All right. So that is what something we call it as incident response. Incident response is itself a topic which we can talk for the whole semester. There are lots of topics which is present in incident response, and each of the domains that I mentioned in this play, I've totally mentioned 9 topics. Each of these topics are in depth by itself. So we can talk, actually we can keep talking about each and every topic for hours and hours and days. So trends and forecasting we'll talk about. So it's like Intel report. So based on the trends, like say for an example, earlier the ransomwares will drop a malware which will encrypt your hard disk, right? So nowadays they don't want to encrypt the hard disk, but they are trying to wiping out all the details. Correct. End of the day, the denial of service is happening. So that's what something we call it as a trend, where exactly these attackers are moving. Earlier it was like that, and now it was moving towards this particular trend. So that trend setting and analyzing this particular trends can be done with AI and then machine learning prediction models. So yeah, so now that we have explored the core areas of threat landscape, I hope you have got some idea about what do you mean by threat landscape and what is the area that we are covering by saying the word called threat landscape. Do you have any doubts at this point? Should I take any questions here? Right, no. Okay. So when we say threat landscape, we are talking about all these areas. That's what something we call it as threat landscape. So yeah, the next one is but. How do we turn all this chaos into actionable knowledge? Can I get any valuable answers? Now you know that, okay, now you know what exactly threat landscape is. We are not talking about one single topic. We are actually talking about multiple things, correct? Now it's like a chaos. Sir, you are talking about red teaming, blue teaming, defensive, offensive, and then threat emulation, threat hunting, all those things. I've shown you 9 topics. So this is like in chaos now. So how do we turn all this chaos into actionable knowledge? By practice with some other tools or device. Yeah, that is correct. Pattern analysis. Okay, that's almost close. Pattern analysis. Intrusion detection system. No, intrusion detection system is not a point which we are driving to. Threat analysis. Gathering information. Yeah, correct. We have to gather informations. Fine. By developing proper security, ma'am, security, sorry, lovely Rat, sir or ma'am, whoever it is. See, developing security tools, there are lots of tools in place. Each and every company have their own proprietary tools in place. But the thing is, as I already mentioned, there is no single silver bullet to answer everything that will take out every threats across your company. No, there is no single tool like that. For each and every sector, for each and every domain, for each and every technique that you use, there are different tools possible. Sometimes one single tool, sometimes multiple tools have to interact together in order to provide the security. So we cannot come up with one single security tool or tools for the entire company. So yeah, so how do we convert all this chaos into actionable knowledge? And the key is enriching the data to intelligence. So now if I put you a question, like I'll give you 3 words, fine? So one is data, information, and intelligence. This is the actual step through which we have to convert the data what we have received to intelligence. Can you give me any analogy or can you give me any examples to understand this? What's the difference between data, information, and intelligence? And we are talking about threat intelligence, right? And I said it's gathering of knowledge. When you are gathering knowledge, it will come to you in a form of data, correct? And as like your friend said, whatever that your friend said is a data, correct? But how do you convert that into intel?
Sir, data, I'm Dr. Ganapathy.
Hmm.
Sir, actually, data is no meaning actually. It is a raw.
Okay.
So once we attach some meaning,
Hmm.
so this is threat, ransomware coming from somewhere.
Yes.
And through AI or mission tools, we have to make it intelligent. Automatically, it has to solve that.
Yes.
It has to protect our servers, data
Correct.
center servers.
Correct.
Okay, sir.
Yeah, that's right, sir. So data by itself, it does not have any meaning. So that might be something which should be attributed to that so that it becomes information, right, sir?
Yes, please.
Yeah. That's a valid point, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
So yeah, so let me walk you through. So here, most of the times when we talk, or we may sometimes use these words interchangeably. So we may forget the difference between these words, and sometimes the distinctions becomes very blur. So when I put you these three words, so data, information, and then intelligence, there is a clear-cut difference. So first of all, when I say data, this data is raw, right? It is unprocessed facts you collect. Obviously, that's a fact. The friend that you have said in the next street, there are a set of three people who just broke into the home, and then they collected this much of money from that. Actually, they might have looted this much of money from the safe, right? So that is something we call it as data, and this data is raw. It doesn't have any meaningful information in it, but it is a fact. Correct. So it is like threat has happened. I mean, robbery has happened, and that is a threat. So that is what something we call it as data. And talking technical, example, this is an IP address and a port number. And I assume that you know what IP addresses or port numbers are. So let me know if you just need a explanation on that. So this is just an IP address and a port from a firewall log or IDS alert. So let's take for an example, your firewall is giving you an alert that your system is trying to contact this IP address. This is a data, correct? This is a piece of information which we have received from our firewall. It's like someone telling you, so assume like firewall is my friend. My firewall is telling me that, sir, your computer is trying to establish a connection to this particular IP address. Okay, what's wrong in that? Fine, so that's not actionable. So what? That's what the question which I will ask to my friend. So what? How does it affect me? So data, as the sir rightly said, it doesn't have any meaning to it. Correct. It's just a factual information. On its own, it does not tell you if it is safe or malicious. By just looking into this IP address, can you tell me whether this IP address is malicious or whether this IP address is genuine? Is it an valid IP address or is it an invalid IP address? Or what is this IP address? Whether is it an IP address, a server, or is it a botnet, or what is it? We don't know anything. Correct. So any facts at this particular stage is what we call it as data. And what can we do at this stage is you can just capture and store the artifact. Maybe you can say something. Why is my firewall alarming? There is something unusual which is happening, so that my firewall have given me some data. Okay, I will just note down this IP address and then I will just check. Okay, let me check. Or I will try to collect even more information about this particular IP address. So that's what we do over here. So security teams will actually save the logs for later analysis. We don't know why the firewall have given the alert, but for now, we just know that my system have tried to establish a connection to this IP address. Fine. Then information. Information is when you add context or annotation to the raw data. Correct? So giving it a meaning. And then example, so you will go and search for this particular IP address. I'll tell you where to search, what are all the informations that you will get. We will walk you through all the tools, right? So once you search for this particular IP address and you get to know that this IP address is registered to someone called Hetzner, and then it is first seen on the internet on this particular date, 23/7/2024, which is recently registered. Right? So now you have even more data. No, now we have even more information. Now this particular IP address has a context. Now this is assigned to some particular person, and this IP address is very recently active. So that's adding some context to the data that was given through my firewall. Now you know who owns the IP address and when it was first appeared. So making it more useful. So that is the transition between data and then the information. And finally, what actions that you can take? You can record the attribute, and this helps to track the pattern and trends. Like, is my system is the only system who's trying to access that particular IP, or is there any other systems connected to my internet is trying to connect to that particular IP? That will be my next search. So just to identify, if there are many number of systems trying to connect to the same IP address, then that is where something which I have to bother. Because I have no connection with this person called Hetzner, and which is a very recent IP address which I have not even heard about, but all the computers which is connected to my network is trying to connect with that particular IP address. Why is it happening? So this is likely turning to be a threat. And how do I convert this into an intelligence? So intelligence is like analyzed, contextualized information that answers, so what? Do you remember the question which I asked when the firewall throw me the alert? Your computer is trying to connect to this IP address. Without any hesitation, I will ask him, so what? Right? So intelligence is where you will get the answer for that. So what? Because you have to really worry, because this IP address belongs to a command and control server. If I have to give you an explanation about command and control server, it is like an server which is controlled by the malicious actor. Usually what these attackers will do is they will not operate directly on your machine. They will not send instructions directly to your machine. What they will do is they will operate a botnet. So those botnets will be deployed on your machine, and they will give instructions to the command and control, and the command and control will in turn pass instructions to the botnet, and where botnet will execute those instructions. Right? So this is where it will be done. And even in sometimes if we are trying to track them down backward, so there will be several layers that we have to pass by, and then we have to find out the real people. And that is the window that they get to escape or to close the entire operation. So that's how usually most of the attackers will operate. So most of the attacks will have this command and control. And now you came to know that this IP is belonging to a command and control server. So what you have to do? Now I cannot ask, so what? Obviously, I have to block that IP address. Correct. There should not be any communication between that IP address and then the systems which is connected to my network. So obviously, I will create an entry in my firewall. Any inbound connection or any outbound connection to this IP address has to be blocked immediately. So firewall comes to know that any packets which is entering inside my network with this IP address will be blocked immediately. Now I am taking an action. So this, I think now it is very clear that how are we converting a simple fact into an actionable intelligence. So raw data is not useful for us to take actions. So any information which is not actionable, it's of useless. Correct. So actually, what do we do with lots of information alone? What do we do with lots of data alone? Correct. So we have to convert that into intelligence. So that's what something we call it as cyber threat intelligence. And this is where actually we are slowly entering into cyber threat intelligence. I hope you got this flow. Is there any doubt with this flow? Is it clear so far?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. So moving ahead, we are slowly stepping inside the cyber threat intelligence. So cyber threat intelligence, we move from collecting raw data to adding context for understanding, and we are creating actionable intelligence. Please make note of these words. So collecting the raw data, and then we are adding a context to it so that it becomes understandable. We can get some meaning out of it. And then we are creating actionable intelligence out of it. That's the last stage that actually protects our organization before the attack has happened. Right? So that is how the cyber threat intelligence will work. Now we all know that data has to be collected. Only if you collect the data, you can enrich the data so that it becomes actionable intelligence. Correct? Now, let me ask you a question. What data to collect? Now you know you have to collect data and you have to enrich the data. That's fine. Now what to collect? What type of data should I collect? Okay. So the key building blocks of cyber threat intelligence is these are not just the terms, but the language for every threat analyst or SOC analyst. So they usually speak in this particular language. For us, it might be a term. It might be a technical term which has some definitions to it, and we might be eager in knowing that. But that is not the case for the SOC analyst or for the threat analyst. This is their language. This is how they speak, right? So the first one is indicators of compromise. Fine. I will slowly connect why are we talking about this particular thing. Slowly, every dots that we give will get connected automatically and you will get the good picture. Why am I myself hearing? Okay. Okay. Indicators of compromise. That is the very first term that we have to understand. And then the second term is indicators of attacks. And the third one is tactics, techniques, and procedures. In short, we call it as TTPs, right? So let's spend some time on understanding what these terms are so that it becomes easier for us to understand what data to be collected. Correct. The first one is indicators of compromise. By just reading this particular word, what do you get to know? What is your instinct? What's your basic understanding? What does this mean? Indicators of compromise. So indicators of compromise is a piece of forensic data that shows a system has already been compromised. So let's take for an example, we are infected with a virus and I got a fever. Correct. From the outside, I may see low, I may experience fatigue, and there must be something. And when I go to the doctor, he will just check what are all present inside me, and if there is any malicious thing, and the presence of this particular virus will actually indicate that my health system is already compromised. Correct. So that is why I got fever. So in technical terms, we have to collect the logs. So this logs is nothing but it's an entry of all the activities that your system is doing. If anyone is trying to enter the password, it will be monitored. If anyone is trying to access a website, it will be monitored. So this is like a monitoring system which will take an entry of each and every activities that is performed on a particular system. Fine. So if there is any indicators of compromise, if any logs says that, in our example, if any logs says that this particular system has successfully connected to the mentioned IP address, which means that the system is already compromised because it has already established connection to that particular server, and we know that it's in command and control of some malicious group, and they might have given some instruction. It is already compromised. And this is what something we call it as indicators of compromise. And presence of this information inside our system confirms that my system is already compromised. So that's what something we call it as indicators of compromise. So look at this particular table. What are all the indicators that I can collect? It can be in a form of IP address. So 45, 155, 205, and 3. It is just a synthetic example, but conceptually that makes sense. So IPv4, it can be an IP address. So you can do an whois check, or there is some websites called VirusTotal where you can just scan for that IP address. And then it actually says that repeated SSH failures that has happened. So which means from this particular IP address, someone is trying to access your machine and then they are trying to connect through SSH. SSH is nothing but it is secure shell connection where it allows remote users to log into our machines by using passwords. If they do not know the password, they will try to brute force. They will try to send all possible passwords. So that's something we call it as brute forcing. And for every failed attempt, there will be a log. So when you see a log which says that there is a continuous failed attempt through SSH from this particular IP address, it means that it is an indicator of compromise because my system is already compromised. They are trying to establish a shell. And sometimes it can be domain also. Like I already said, attackers may host some malwares on the websites and somehow trick the users to visit the websites. In those cases, we will be getting domain names as the indicators of compromise. So this is also an indicator of compromise. So suddenly most of your systems is trying to connect to a particular website. Most of these systems are trying to send a request to a particular DNS server. So then this system or this activity is something we call it as indicators of compromise. And so in some cases, it can be an URL. URL comes mainly in form of phishing, right? So when you click a link that is given in the email, at the front end, it can be written as click here to know your credit score. But at the back end, it can be hyperlinked to a malicious website. It can send a download request to any file, and it can download a file at the back end. So we don't know what is that happening. It can send a post request, and it can get actually it can get a get request. So anything can be sent in the form of URL. So URL is also an malicious thing that can be our data to collect. And sometimes it is file hashes. And these file hashes are especially valid for malwares. So once you download the malware, or if there is a file which comes as your email attachments, in most of the cases they hide the malwares inside the PDF. So at an outside, it looks like a PDF file, but there might be some malicious program which is embedded into the PDF. So this particular files will have an hash value. So this particular hashes will help us to identify if it is something malicious or not. Not by the hashes itself. Many will be reporting that this particular file which is having this hash value is doing something malicious inside my system. Based on that information, even if you also got the same hash value, then you can say that, okay, this file is something doing malicious. It's safe not to download it. Correct. And sometimes if there is an indicator, and while analyzing the hash values of all the files on a particular system, you found out this particular hash. So it is confirmed that the malware has already entered inside your system. And sometimes it is in the form of email address. Sometimes attackers will use malicious email ID for sending malicious content or for communication, and for which you can use MX tool header analysis, and we can see from where exactly the email have been received. And local artifacts are there. Local artifacts is like running some scripts at the back end. So all these things will confirm that it is an indicator of compromise. So now at least we know what are all the things to look for. So while we are collecting the information, we have to look for if there is any IP addresses. Fine. So if there is an IP address, that's a data for us. If there is a domain name, that's a data for us. URL, file hash, email, and then local artifacts such as unusual executables inside your file system. All these things acts as our data to collect. So this is what the piece of information that we will be collecting. And the second thing is indicators of attack. So IOA focuses on detecting the intent and behavior of attackers. So spotting the attack in progress before compromise is complete. This is like attack has happened, attack is in progress, but they have not completely acquired your system. They have just got the initial access, okay? But they have not completely penetrated inside your network. So this is something we call it as indicators of attack. So there are certain things, PowerShell execution, creating an unknown services. There are lots of things that happens at the backend, which will allow the attackers or the bad actors to enter inside our system. So first thing is PowerShell execution. So initially, a small command prompt will open up. It will quickly run some commands, and then that particular command will allow the attacker to get a connection to our machine. So that's how it is possible. So attacker will send a simple script, and that script will open the command box, command window, and it will execute the commands at a very faster speed. So there are certain techniques which attackers may use to obfuscate or to bypass the antivirus controls too. And there are some lateral movement attempts. So lateral movement attempts is sometimes our server might not be directly accessible. So attacker will try to get access to some other machine, and from that machine, he will move on to the next machine. And from that machine, he will try to attack the final server. And this is what something we call it as pivoting or lateral movement. And that's how, if there is a sign of lateral movement, then that is an indicator of attack. and then multiple failed login attempts, especially in the case of password brute forcing. There will be lots of logs that you will find when, especially if there is an failed attempt. So if there are lots of failed attempts, we can clearly say that there is an chances of attack. And then unusual privilege escalation. So privilege escalation is a very critical or very famous technique among the attackers. Eventually, most of the high profile people access is not possible that easily. It is more secured. But because of some misconfigurations, because of some vulnerabilities that is present, or if there is any exploits which is readily applicable on your machine, then attackers will first take the foothold of any one low privilege user, and by exploiting that low privilege user, he will be elevating their privileges to the root user or to the admin user. So like that, they will escalate the privileges. There are lots of techniques for privilege escalations too. So if any of these things are happening or anything related to this kind of activities is happening, then we can clearly say that it is an indicator of attack. When I say indicator of attack, it is like attack has already started, but they have not completely taken control of your machine. They are trying to take control of your machine, but they are already in. Attack is in progress. That's what something we call it as indicators of attack. And the last one that we have to talk about is tactics, techniques, and procedures, which plays a very important role in cyber threat intelligence. So TTPs describe how the attackers operate, which is a very useful piece of information for a SOC analyst or a threat analyst to understand how these attackers operate. So if I see a pattern, and at the beginning of the class, some of the faculty members have rightly said that pattern matching. So if I could able to get the pattern of a particular attack group, and if the same pattern is again happening in my organization also, then as a threat analyst, it is very easy for me and it is important for me to lock that particular sequence, to hold that particular sequence, because I suspect that this might be a behavior of any attack group. Correct. So that's how something we call it as TTPs. So first, T stands for tactics. This will tell you why, the attacker's goal. Okay. So persistence, privilege escalation, what are they actually trying to do? Are they trying to get inside your machine? Are they trying to collect information? Or are they trying to log into your account? What are they trying to do? And then techniques. In our tactics is like what are they trying to do? And then techniques is like how they are going to do that. Fine. If I have to log into your email, how can I log into your email? What's my intent? There might be something which is valuable in your email. Correct. Say if you have any voucher codes and I have to get that voucher code. And the technique which I use is phishing. I will send you an malicious email and I will ask you to log in. So assuming that this is the legitimate site, you will just enter the username and password. So I've got the username and password, so legitimately I can log in. So that is the technique. Here phishing is the technique. And the last one is procedures. So procedures is like how exactly I did that. Okay, phishing is the technique, but for conducting the phishing, what are all the procedures that I have followed? So I might have created one dummy email, and then I might have created a command and control center. So usually it will be Sliver or something. So from that particular server, I might have sent you an email. So email spoofing might have been done. So this is the procedure which I've just followed to send you an phishing email. Through that phishing email, I was trying to log into your email ID. So that is the complete process. So tactic, technique, and procedures. So as a threat analyst, I am very much interested to know how these attackers are actually working. So just to give you a quick recap, so we were talking about three important factors. One is IOC, which is evidence of compromise or indicators of compromise. So this can be an indicator during the attack or after the attack too. And second piece of information we were talking about is IOA, which actually tells you the behavior showing an attack is underway, which means the attack has already started, but it has not fully compromised. And the third piece of information is TTP, which is adversary's overall method, how this particular attackers will work. Their, let's say their, their signature step. Correct. So this is how this people will do, like that. So the next we can slightly move on to, now we know that what data to collect. So now indicators of compromise, indicators of attacks, and then TTPs or the various information which you have to collect. Now you know what to collect. Correct? Sir, doubts? Someone has raised the hand. Should I stop? Okay. So now we know that what data to collect. Earlier, we just know that we have to collect the data and we don't know what to collect. Earlier we know that we have to collect the data and we have to enrich the data. And after enriching the data, we don't know what data to collect. Now we know what data to collect after reading IOC, IOA, and TTPs. Now, where does all this intelligence actually come from? Now, where do I collect this data? That's my second question. Now I know I have to collect IP addresses. I have to collect domain names. I have to collect email addresses. Correct. Now I have to collect logs from my internal systems. Obviously, logs will be available with you, but the rest of the information, where do you collect? Who will actually tell you that this particular IP address is malicious IP address? Who will tell you that this particular URL is a malicious URL? Where to collect this intelligence? That's our next question, and that's where we are moving forward. So before moving forward, do you have any doubt at this point?
Good evening, sir. Myself,
ma'am.
Lovely Dutt. I want to ask you regarding the phishing technique. Is it is confined to only email?
Phishing,
The
there are
phishing-
several types of phishing. So phishing generally, it can happen through emails, it can happen through SMSs as well, and sometimes that is called as whale phishing, which is targeting the high profile people. There are different types of phishing, but they may take emails, they may take social medias, they may take anywhere where you can click the link. Phishing is like clicking a link and then you are actually redirected to the malicious website. This concept is what something we call it as phishing. But the delivery mechanism may change. The link you may get it through email, the link you may get it through SMS, or sometimes through words also, through call also.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. Thank you. Fine. So our next question is naturally, where do we collect all this information or intelligence? So basically, you will collect all this information from feeds and platforms of threat intelligence. So feeds are nothing but, see, most of the companies will collect information from across the globe. Many people will tell you, as like your friend said in the last in the street next to our home, this robbery has happened. You came to know about this information. How did he came to know about that information? Might be through some news, might be through some his friends. So sources are across the globe. Correct. Like how we just understood what are all the various threats that we have to our home. Like similarly, there are lots of people who will keep telling my company got infected because of this IP address. My company got infected because of this malware. My company got infected because of this misconfiguration. Like that, many companies across the globe will keep on saying, or they will keep on releasing reports onto the internet. Fine. And there are certain companies who does this as a service. So they will give you feeds. Most of the companies will give you feeds. So just for you to give you an understanding, I can just show you a demonstration of, it's too much of theory. So are you looking at my browser window now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Just give me a sec. Yeah. I think now we should look at my browser window. Yes, correct. So here, this is a MIS platform. Okay. So here is a MIS platform. And if you just come to download or data mode, we are already in the feed section. So we are already in the feed section. And if you just come back, you can see the default feeds available in the MISP. So your MISP is nothing but it is abbreviated as malware information sharing platform. If there is any malwares, you can just share it with the community. There is a community which collects all this information across the globe, and they will enrich the data. Right. And now you know what is enriching the data. They will try to add context to that information. What is this malware is all about? And where is this, from where did this malware came? What is the origin of this malware? And what is the language used for writing this malware? And which part of the computer is this malware affecting? So they will try to add all these information so that the complete set of information is very much useful for anyone who is trying to protect their organization. So the first source of information that we get is through some feeds. So feeds, you can just consider it like the reels on Instagram. So when we keep on scrolling, you will keep on getting some information, right? Yes. Okay. So here I can just see, I'll walk you through this particular websites also, but I can randomly click on something, and you should be knowing that this feeds can come in different format. You can actually see that here the feed format is mentioned as CSV. CSV is like Excel sheets. And then sometimes it is like all of the feeds. Sometimes it can be free text too. And sometimes it can be JSON texts. JSON text means it will be in structured format. And that will, this is what something we call it as feed. And when I just randomly click on any feed, so just to show you, I think CSV, okay, let me check. So here you can actually see, so this is the domain which is malicious over there, and that is from this IP address, and it was first identified at this particular time, and then some DNS version. The DNS version is not mentioned. So here you can see the domain name. So addresses are seen in the current report. So they are actually producing, they are collecting information from the various reports. They are scraping that information and they are giving it in a form of usable form. So what you can do is you can, as like I said, not all the information will be useful for you. So this is just a summary of whatever they have collected across the internet. It's a very huge list. So you can see that it's a DigitalOcean, which is an cloud services. So these are all the various IPs which is live, or it may not be live also. And they have seen that this is where it found in the last minute. So this is one sort of feed. So this is some sort of information that we have collected. Correct. And I'm just trying to tell you from where this informations will be coming. The first source is feeds, and this is how the feeds will look like. So a SOC analyst will collect all these feeds, and then they will process it, and then they will look if there is any information which is relevant to their company, or which intelligence or which data is most concerned to their mode of operation, or which could be a possible threat for their company. So this is where those informations are coming from. So let me just click on some other informations as well. So that's a free text which is giving you a list of IP address which could be malicious. So here we actually see a list of possible IP addresses which could be malicious. So further investigation can be done based on the IP address that you have got. Correct. So how many of them have flagged this as malicious or it is genuine? We don't know. So now we just got some data. Correct. This is just an IP address. With this IP address, we cannot do anything. We have to further analyze this particular IP address. And then if this IP address is really a threat for you, then you have to create an entry in your firewall to block this particular IP addresses. This is the list of IP addresses that we get. So this is a best example of how the feeds will look like. So here it is a list of malicious hashes too. Let me try to open that. Yeah, I have downloaded a CSV file. Let me open it for you. So if you just look at this particular CSV file, it is just an hash value. So this is the target hash. So this is, you have several hash values. So what is it actually saying is these are all the list of hash values which could be malicious. So what you can do is you can compute a hash value for all the files and system, I mean, for all the services that you have on your system. And then you can just compare, does any of the hash values computed on your machine is matching with this particular list? If it is matching, then that is a threat for you. Correct. You might be already compromised, or you are in the process of compromising or something. You might be a victim. Correct. So, and from there on, you have to take an actionable, and from there you have to take the action. So that is how this informations will come to us. So this is how we can collect information. This is one website which I'm just showing it to you. There are lots of websites which is actually giving you information in a form of feed. So getting back to our slide, so here you can actually see that these feeds are okay. So these feeds are actually updated in a regular time.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am, you are.
Sir, I think we can have a short break of 2-3 minutes, right?
Okay.
Participants, we know that this is a two continuous sessions.
Yeah.
So I
Okay.
think we can have a break of 5 minutes.
Fine.
Dear participants, at the same time, we will be posting the feedback link in the chat box. Kindly fill it out within 15 minutes. So as per our schedule, the second session will also be handled by the same resource person. So let's use this quick break to stretch and refresh, and then we will dive straight into the next session. And one important request to the participants, please do not exit the meeting during the break, because it's only short, 2-3 minutes, right? So please don't exit the meeting. We will resume the session by, I think 10, 6 or 7, right, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. We can resume the session by 8-7.
Yeah, ma'am, sure.
So
So I think we can start again. Shall we start now?
Yeah. Yes, sir. I think we can start the session.
Okay.
Yeah, dear participants, we are again back to the session 2 of day 1. Sir, over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So I think you might have had a little stretch. So yeah, getting back to the point where we left off. So we were in the discussion of collecting information, right? So the next practical question that hits our mind is, where do I collect all these information? So it is predominantly from two areas. One is through the feeds, which I've just shown you, just some sample feeds from where I can get. So MISP is one open source MISP is one open source platform through which you can collect information for free, so as because it is an open source. And the second sort of actually there are lots of websites which will give you information through feeds and in different formats. So it's like in CSV format, JSON format, and sticks format. So in different formats they may give you the information, and the second source of information is through some platforms. So as I said, MISP is one among the platform, and there is one more platform, call it as OpenCTI. So this OpenCTI will actually look like this. So this will come like a dashboard, and then through these instances we can actually see more information about a particular malware or particular threat actor or whoever or whomsoever it may be. So other sources of threat intelligence are, these are all not the only source of information, but there are other source of informations too. So intelligence is only a trustworthy because as its source. So you should be also be curious, and you should be focusing on from where you are collecting this particular information. You should not collect information from a source which will not give you a trustworthy information. Then that information is of no use. So as an analyst, you must know and note where each and every indicator originated. Correct. So along with that along with the piece of information that you got, you should also make a note like from where this information was obtained and who is the creator of that particular information. What is the reputation of that particular creator in the history. Correct. So by looking all these informations, we can just come to a solution like or a conclusion that whether to take this intel or not, information or not. So there are 4 broad sources in addition to the platforms and feeds that I've shown in the previous slides. The first one is internal telemetry. Internal telemetry is like the logs that is collected on your system itself. So that is where you can collect this information. And second one is commercial services. There are lots of people who will actually give you some informations about where this process are collected, and they will record everything. They will do the cleaning work, and then they will give the information which is in a ready to use format, and for that you will have to pay some amount for that. And then open source intelligence, there are certain websites which will help us to investigate some IPs, so investigate some DNS. If you give the IP addresses with their database, they will just check and they will run a scan, and they will give you lots of IOCs and IOAs and communities, and then ISAC. So here sector specific lists marketed with the labels and rich context. So they will just give you sector specific. You can just talk with another financial banking, you can talk with another institute, or you can talk with another organization who is of from the same domain. They will give you even more enriched data which is particularly tagged, and all those labels have been done. So from this is where you have to collect all the information, and then generally these sources will flush too much of information. Even in our feed, you just see, actually you have just seen there are lots of IP addresses. So this is literally flushing too much of information to us, and it is important to know what to take and what to leave. That is understood by the feed itself. Now there comes the classification of threat intelligence. So our next topic will be classification of threat intelligence. So this is very much important to understand what sort of information has to be collected. Fine. So here is a basic understanding. Like threat intelligence is geared toward understanding the relationship So here the threat intelligence is geared towards understanding the relationship between the operational environment and your adversary. Correct. So you have to find the relationship. What type of threat actors might be a risk for you? What type of techniques might be vulnerable to your infrastructure? So all these things has to be related. So that sort of intelligence can be analyzed, or that can be figured out by looking into or by understanding the threat intelligence classification. So there are 4 important type of classifications that we have, out of which the first one is strategic intelligence. The second one is tactical intelligence. Third one is operational intelligence, and final one is technical intelligence. I will walk you through each and every step. Each and every type. So when we talk about strategic intelligence will give you an high level intelligence, and actually that will give you a big picture of the threat which an organization is facing. So generally the characteristics of this type of strategic intelligence will be like, it will be focusing on long-term trends. Correct. And then it will be usually aimed at executives, risk managers, and decision makers who are sitting at the top level. So they are not interested in the bottom level precise or a granular level attack which is the company is going to face. So for that we have technical team which is functioning separately. So this type of intelligence will actually help the people, those who are at the governance level, those who are setting the policies, those who are actually managing the set of rules. And then, so it actually helps in policy making, budgeting, and strategic planning. Fine. So to give you an example, suppose an annual cybersecurity report says that a ransomware gang is slowly shifting towards financial extortion to data wiping. So nowadays ransomware is not focused on asking you for money. Money they can get it from the other company or from the competitor for attacking you. Correct. So they can spread a ransomware, and then slowly they are moving towards wiping the data. They are not going to lock out the information, but they are going to wipe out your data. So this is an intel. And how do we convert this into an action? So on the other side, the decision makers can use this information. So this type of information is what we call it as strategic intelligence, which might be useful for the people, those who are sitting at the governance level. So this decision makers can use this information to invest better in backup strategies. So ransomware can be avoided, or ransomware can be tackled only through a proper backup strategies, right? And this ransomware attacks were still prevalent, and even in very recent times, most of the companies are getting infected with the ransomware attack. So they can decide whether they have to invest better in the backup strategies and disaster recovery plans even before the attack has occurred. So at an outset, it is all about what might happen and how it could impact the business. So that is what something we call it as strategic intelligence. Moving on to the next type of intelligence, it's tactical intelligence. So tactical intelligence is focusing on understanding how attackers will operate. So like we already discussed the TTP. So it is like understanding their tactics, techniques, and procedures. Usually the characteristics of this type of intelligence will tell you who are all the adversaries and guidance on specific methods. Correct. So what is the method that this particular attackers are actually employing? And then it helps in defending the systems proactively. If you know the pattern of an attack group, and you can effectively protect your infrastructure by that particular pattern analysis. So if I can give you an example, it says that there is a report which is recently released, which
அட அறிவலையா 2 வேளைக்கு தான் மாத்துறாங்க இப்போ காலையில மட்டுமா மாத்துறாங்க 2 வேளைக்கு தான் மாத்துறாங்க
Fine. So the report actually says that the attackers are using a Visual Basic macro which is hidden inside a phishing email. So this is the technique that they are following. They are hiding a macro file inside a Word document or inside a Excel document, and they are attaching that Word document in the email. Okay, so this is the method that the attackers are using. So this type of intel can be turned into an action like a SOC team. So this type of information can be useful for a SOC team. SOC represents Security Operations Center. So these people can update an email filters. If there is any email which is from a particular email address, they can block it with the name of email, or they can block it with the attachment type. So they can block all the macro enabled attachments. So even now, if you download any Excel sheet, it may say that there might be macros enabled. So enable at your own risk. That will actually, there might be some pop-up message which appears on top of your application. So only after allowing that, your macros will get enabled. Sometimes it can be auto enabled too. So this SOC team can actually update their filtering schemes based on the emails that we receive, or based on the attachment scanning for the email. And alternatively, they can educate the users as well. So here the key point is this type of intelligence might be useful for SOC intelligence team, SOC team, to effectively filter out the threats. So at an outset, it is all about how attackers will operate and giving defenders an actionable method to detect and block attackers. It doesn't mean that the attack is already happened, but if there is an attack which follows this pattern, then your company is already safe. So you are just taking a proactive measure.
Sir, I have a doubt.
Yes, ma'am.
Sir, when we are using emails of Google domain like Gmail, are we protected from these kind of attacks by default? My question is, suppose if I am using my own domain, I am creating my own domain for email, the chances are more compared to Google. So if I am using a Gmail, am I protected from all this?
No, just because of using Gmail doesn't mean that you are safe from this particular thing, because Gmail actually comes up with email scanners, their own very efficient email scanners, which automatically labels whether the email looks like a spam or it's like a marketing message. So that is why you have on the label side, so that there might be some emails which is tagged as spam, which might be an auto-generated email. So while doing an email analysis, you can actually check whether this email is sent to a particular person or it is being sent to a group of people. Is it an automated email, or is it some email which have been written specifically to that person? So Gmail scanners will actually scan all these parameters. There are multiple parameters. So they will check all these parameters, and based on that, it will potentially categorize that it could be a spam or it could be a legitimate email. But this doesn't save you from the phishing attacks, because phishing attacks are written or crafted very intelligently, saying that, see, clicking a particular link, email scanners will just scan for where exactly this link leads to. If that link leads to a legitimate website, then the Gmail will allow you, actually the Gmail scanners will not stop that email. And what if the attacker have attached a malicious website to that? That website's behavior will not be scanned by the Gmail. Gmail will not scan for how that website is behaving, what happens if you visit that website. All these things will not be scanned by Gmail. So just by using a Gmail service, that doesn't mean that you are safe from phishing email.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. So next, the third type is operational intelligence. Operational intelligence is like detailed information about the specific attack campaigns. So it is like, so who is behind that? It's like an entire thing. Who is operating that? How long it is being operating? What are all the IP addresses that they are using? And all these sort of things will be collected in this type of intelligence. So generally, the characteristics of this type of intelligence will be like, they are usually campaign specific. Campaigns are nothing but, this is like short-term period. Campaigns, say for an example, defaming a particular political party. So this is a campaign which will not run for a longer time, only during the period of election, or only during when there is a clash between two countries, when there is a war situation. Only during this moments, this campaigns will be running, just to influence something, just to influence some people, or just to spread some misinformation among the people, or just to spread some deepfake videos among the community. Only for the short duration, these campaigns will run. That's what we call it as a campaign, which will run for a short period of time with a unified goal. These all people will have the same goal, defaming this particular party, like that, or destructing this particular service. That's how these campaigns will run. And it helps the security team to understand the attacker's intent. So here we will be knowing about the intent. Okay, this particular attack or this campaign is being executed just to defame this particular party. That's what the information that we will get. So here the information what you may get is a report indicates that an APT group, Advanced Persistence Threat Group, is targeting a HR department of a telecom company to steal the employee's credential. This is the intel that you are getting. Correct. So this particular people are trying to target the telecom people. This might be because of the newer launch of 5G technology. When the 5G technology was launched, there might be some security issues. So that can be exploited. Fine. So that's how this intel will operate. And that's how these intels are useful. And the action can be, security can harden the access control. They can monitor the HR systems closely. Fine. So once you know that there is a threat to the HR department accounts, you can monitor them little closely. You can just give them an alert that, and then you can ask them to change their passwords every 15 days or 30 days, which will make the attackers even difficult to guess their passwords, and not to disclose the passwords anywhere. Ask them to enable, multi-factor authentication. So even if the password is disclosed, they could not able to get the access to the account. And you can conduct phishing simulations too. Phishing simulations are very attractive because we can just send them. You have to hire a red team operation people, and then you have to send a phishing email to all the people. And this is happening with the permission of the authorities. And then you can just check what percentage of people are aware of phishing email and what percentage of people are not aware. So actually by clicking the link, they will just check what percentage of employees have actually clicked the link and what percentage of people have not clicked the link, and how many have actually reported that as a phishing. So this awareness check has to be done, and this is the very best way to check whether your company is resistant against phishing or not. So at an outset, overall, operational intelligence is about who is attacking and what they want. This is the type of information that this operational intelligence will give. And finally, talking about the technical intelligence, this is the most granular form of intelligence. This is the very bottom level of intelligence because this includes atomic indicators. So like what we discussed, all the IP addresses, domain names, all these informations will be given in this particular technical intel. So depending upon where you sit in an organization, you should collect different intels. If you are at the managerial position, you have to collect necessary intel for that. If you are at an SOC level, then you have to collect that intelligence. And if you are even at the bottom level and you are representative or you are responsible for configuring the firewalls, then you have to focus on the technical intelligence. So like that, it depends on the people and depends on the cadre, depends on the responsibility of that particular person who is a part of securing that organization. So generally, technical intelligence characteristics will be like they are directly actionable by the security analyst by the automated tools. Simply add this IP address to the block list so that the security tools will start automatically blocking the IP addresses. And it helps detect, block, and investigate the attacks. For an example, you know what the intel that we will get. So most probably it will be IP addresses. And we know that this IP address is a part of a botnet. And sometimes you may get SHA values also, hash values also. SHA-256 is a specific algorithm to generate the hashes of a ransomware file. So this is the intel, and the action can be, analyst can block the IPs in the firewall, and also he can search for any previous connections. Is there any other machines which has made or established a connection to this particular service or not, and prevent the malware spread. And if it is in case if it is an hash value or a if it is a hash value of a malware file, then it allows endpoint protection software to identify and quarantine the malware. It will check the hash value, and if the hash value matches with the database, it will decide that this is a malware and it will be quarantined. So overall, this is all about what exactly to block or to investigate. Whether I have to block this IP, if I have sufficient information, or if I don't have sufficient information, then I have to investigate it even more. And then once I got the actionable insight, then I can take my action. So that's all about the technical intelligence. So just to give you a quick recap about all the type of intelligence, the classification of intelligence, there are 4 types of intelligence that we have seen. One is strategic, tactical, operational, and technical. So when we talk about strategic, it is all about the trend setting, correct? So it will give you a big picture. And if it is a tactical, it will tell you the attack method and TTPs, which is very relevant for SOCs and threat analyst. And then it is operational, then it is for SOC people, and then incident response team. There might be a different team in organization who is especially working on incident response. So these people will kick in when there is an attack. When there is an attack that is in progress, they will try to contaminate that particular attack, contain that particular attack. Technical attack is for the analyst and all for the tools. This is the information which goes for the tools. So with that, we are moving ahead to the next one, which is threat intelligence life cycle. So which makes us to pass on to this particular topic is there any structured approach to implement this threat intelligence? Right. So now we know we have to collect data, we have to enrich the data so that it becomes an actionable intelligence. And next we know what are all the data to collect. And then we studied where to collect that particular information. And then we have studied what sort of intelligence is suitable for what sort of people, the classification of threat intelligence. And now we are slowly moving across how to implement this threat intelligence. Is there a structured way to manage this particular threat? If you ask me, the answer is yes, there is a structured way to manage this particular threat. And that's what something we call it as life cycle of cyber threat intelligence. So life cycle of CTI will have 6 phases. So I'll quickly walk you through the 6 phases. But before that, there is a quick prerequisite which has to be studied. Before we dive in, so CTI life cycle, there are 2 key concepts which you have to know. So first one is protocol and another one is format. So there is some protocol which you need to understand, and there is some format which you have to understand before jumping into the life cycle. Because CTI intelligence is shared across multiple industries, correct? Many industries are sharing their information and it is consumed by various organizations worldwide. So any intelligence which is fleshed out by financial sector is being utilized by the construction sector as well. So that irrespective of what domain or what area of that particular institution is or the organization is, they are flushing the data. And this data are being consumed by many people, be it an educational institute, be it an research institute, be it an service-based institute, or be it an service-based organization or whatever it is, whomsoever it is. So to ensure this information can be easily ingested and understood, ingested means feeding inside a particular software or feeding inside your AI model or something. So in order to make it compatible, all this information should be in a standard format. It should be disclosed in a standard format so that it can be consumed across the globe. So everyone can consume. It is like a standardization. So we actually follow one protocol and one format. So talking about the protocol, and when it comes to cyber threat intelligence, we all use a protocol called TLP, which is Traffic Light Protocol. And the purpose of this protocol is for sharing information with clear understanding, like who has to use and act on it. Correct. So while sharing an intel itself, you have to tag it. Like this intel is for whom. Correct. So like that, we have 4 categories. So it sets the boundaries for distribution. And also when we talk about intelligence, see, as a person who is working in an academic institution, I am free to gather intelligence about the threats for the CTIs, so CFTs, centrally funded institutes, or NITs, IITs, or whatever it is. Or I can see, or I can collect, or I'm allowed or authorized to collect intelligence about the common threats that educational institutes will have. Correct, and not beyond that. I am not allowed to gather any intelligence for which is a company like Microsoft is facing, company like IBM is facing, like IOB is facing. So I am not authorized, or I am not, and it is not relevant for me to collect also. Correct. So, and also there might be some national threat intelligence too, which is top secret, and this can be read and this can be disclosed only with that community of people. Yes or no? So it is like not all intelligence is for everyone. There are certain restrictions, like this intel has to be consumed among only this community of people. So this traffic light protocol will actually help us to share who has to consume what. So there are 4 levels of information sharing. So first one is color coded as red. When you see that, or when the intel is tagged as TLP red, it means that it is highly sensitive. So this particular information, there must be only the recipient should be able to see this intel, and it cannot be shared further. Which means when you are working in a company and it comes with a tag like TLP red, which means that only you can consume that information. It is only for you. You are not allowed to share it with your network, or you cannot forward it to your subordinates or employees. So that's the high level thing, we call it as red. So it is highly sensitive. And the next color code is amber. So here in this particular amber, this is for limited distribution. It's like, it's not as sensitive as red, but this is for limited distribution. So only within your organization. So if I'm receiving any threat which is focusing on IIIT Kottayam, I can share only among the employees of IIIT Kottayam, not for the other institutes. So then TLP is green. So it can be shared within the community. This is for the academic community. So whoever is there in the academic community, they can consume this. Right. So this is specific for a community of people. And if there is an intelligence only for the banking sectors, that is only for the banking sectors. The construction sector cannot able to access that intel, and that's not for them. And finally, white or clear. If the color code is clear or white, which means it is public. So everything that you see on public domain is an intelligence which is color coded with TLP white. And rest of the intelligence can be obtained only if you are inside that particular domain or inside that particular sector. All right, so that is how we will get this information. So I think you're all clear with this traffic light protocol. This traffic light protocol will help us to stop or restrict the sharing of intelligence with the right people. Fine. So at an outset, TLP ensures that someone has raised the hand. Should I stop and take the question? All right. So TLP ensures that the right people get the right intelligence. That is the whole point of this protocol. And then the next one is you have to talk about the format. So the general format which everyone will be following is STIX format. So STIX can be abbreviated as a Secure Threat Information Expression. So this is how the format through which you can share any intelligence onto the public or onto the platform. So how can you share? This particular STIC will ensure that all the information that you share have a standard format, and it is attributed with enough details so that it becomes meaningful. So this will talk to you about why STIX is important. It allows sharing complex intelligence across different organizations and platforms without misinterpretation. So without any misinterpretation, everyone can consume that particular data. And usually this STIX format will have very important components in it. So first one, it should have the indicator. So it should have the specific IOCs, example, any IP addresses, any domains, or any file hashes. The second one is it should have the threat actor. If you have then this information has to be involved in that. So it should have the details about the hacker, group, or individual, and it should have the details about the campaign. It's not mandatory that it should have everything. Dependent on the information that you are sharing on the platform, it should be rich enough with all necessary factors or information. So if it is it may have details about campaign, it may have the hash values of the malware and the description, as I said. So where is the malware actually came from, what is the origin point, and then what is the language that was used to develop this, and which area of the computer is it getting affected, and what is the technique that is being used, and what is the hash value of the file or files, and TTPs, tactic, technique, and procedures used by the attackers. So when you are sharing an information, this type of, when you are sharing an intel, then that particular intel has to be enriched with all these sort of associated data. So next, moving on to cyber threat intelligence life cycle, I told you that it is in 6 phase steps. So the 6 phases are, the first one is direction, and the second one is collection, third is processing, and it is analysis. After that, it has to be dissemination. After then, it is feedback, and that completes the entire cycle. So I don't want to bore you with the theoretical explanation of how this life cycle is working. So for that, I may take an scenario which happens in real time. So let us assume that we are all working in cyber threat intelligence, and we have been given a task. So how do we execute that particular task? So let me just explain in that way. So before that, direction is like defining the mission. Okay, so this is a brief overview of what each and every step does. Fine. So direction is like defining the mission. You have to define how exactly what exactly has to be done. And collection is assembling the raw material, assembling the raw data, and then normalizing and correlating the data. That's the next process. If you are in the machine learning, we will be actually pre-cleaning the data. Fine. So the information or the data set that we have received may not be in a suitable format for processing. So we have to clean it. So that is something we call it as normalizing and correlation. And analysis. So you have to turning the information into judgment. So this is where you are taking an judgment. This is where you are taking an actionable insight. And then dissemination. You are just getting the intelligence to the right consumers. And then finally measuring and refining the cycle. You are just taking a feedback, and then you are just checking whatever that you have done have reflected in the security posture or not. That's what we call it as cyber threat intelligence. So now we will take a deep dive, and we will assume that we have a situation like TriHackMe Corp holds a sensitive customer data. Fine. So there is some organization which is having some customers' sensitive data in a PostgreSQL server. So PostgreSQL server is the database that they are using. It is mentioned over here, and it is segmented subnet, which means these servers are located in a separate network, in a segmented network. And the second piece of information that you are given is the server is fronted by a next generation firewall. So you have a firewall protection for that, and it is monitored on the host by endpoint detection and response. So you have monitoring system, and necessary EDRs are installed already on the endpoints. So all the EDR agents are collecting logs, and then it is feeding it to the firewall. So that is also been done. So a senior management has asked the SOC to bring in a cyber threat intelligence. So now someone from the cyber threat intelligence like you and me wants to prepare an intelligence report to what are all the threats that this particular infrastructure is having. So how do we execute the flow if we have been assigned to this? So just to name it, I will just name it as Alex. So Alex is going to represent the community of the SOC who is going to execute this particular task. So now you know what is the task of Alex. So Alex has given is actually given with some information. So there is some company which has some sensitive information of their customer, which is stored in an PostgreSQL server. And this particular server is in a segmented network, and the server is behind the firewall, and necessary EDRs are installed and the logs are being monitored by the firewall. And our job is to bring, I mean, when I say our, I just mean Alex, who is representing us. So Alex wants to come up with a threat intelligence report. So let's see how he is implementing the life cycle of the cyber threat intelligence and how is he completing that procedure. So first and foremost, the first one is direction. So here it actually talks about defining the mission. So defining the mission is like, Alex, begin in a brief planning meeting. So first of all, you will convene a meeting with the CTA lead and then the database administrator, because the threat intelligence has to be supported for, has to be submitted for the asset, which is a server, which is in turn a database server, right? So that is why database administrator has also to be called. And then together they translate the broad mandate into intelligence requirement. So how do they convert that into intelligence requirement? So first one is they will fix the primary asset. In our case, it is an PostgreSQL production database. So setting the primary asset, because this is where the area on which you are going to collect the intel. So marking that area is very important. And then business risk. What are all the risk that is associated with this particular service? So you have to collect all the threats which is available or which is prevailing for the database. And then you have to check for the available controls. What are all the existing controls that is already protecting the server? You know that next generation firewall is there and it is capable of IP and domain blocking, and EDR can actually quarantine the files. Fine. And then these are all the techniques that you already have. And then initial CTI goal, this has to be set. So he has to use the threat feed indicators and block or alert on suspicious IP address, and you have to detect the non-malicious file. So these are the true factors, correct? So for an database, so it has to be, it should not communicate with some malicious IP addresses. That is the first thing. And second one is something should not enter inside this particular server, like a malware or something. So it has to detect any non-malicious file through the EDR layers. So once after setting all this direction and then the goals, then the Alex construct two measurable questions. Always when you are in a cyber threat intelligence, it's all about actionable insights. So our question should also be an measurable question. Is the attack has been stopped or not? That is measurable. Or what percentage of data has been leaked? Or how much time that my server allows the attacker to conduct a brute force, and after that it will block him. So this is how it should be measurable, something in form of time or something in percentage, what percentage of data have been leaked. So he constructs two measurable questions that will steer the subsequent collection analysis, because the next step is to collect information. So he has to collect necessary information. So the first question that Alex would create is, which external IP addresses and domains are currently used to exploit PostgreSQL? This is one sort of intel which I would like to collect, because I'm trying to secure or I'm trying to find out what is the threat landscape for the database, which is particularly PostgreSQL database. So I will be trying to collect what are all the IP addresses that are currently targeting the exploitation of PostgreSQL. And second question is, which malware families are targeting the PostgreSQL? Correct. If there is any malwares, what are all the malware types? I'm just trying to collect only these two informations, nothing beyond this. Remember, this is a cycle, which means it is an iteration. We can iterate as many times as we need. So currently for the first cycle, I am just focusing on only these two parameters, not to overburden myself, right? I mean, Alex. So once that step one is done, he is moving on to the second step. So here is actually collecting and he is assembling all the raw material. Step two is to collect all the raw material. So what he will do is he will just actually guided by the questions, Alex gather intelligence from 4 sources. So he will be collecting information basically from 4 sources. When you look at the table, he will first look at the commercial feed. And from that commercial feed, he can actually tailor the same firewall models and which is high fidelity. Correct. So he will just search for the commercial feed, the type of firewall that they are using. because the firewall itself may have some vulnerabilities. So he will just check with the commercial feeds of the firewall. Did they have informed anything to their customers about the vulnerabilities? That's the first place. So, and then they have actually said that 37 IP addresses were flagged as database exfiltration C2 the last 24 hours, which means 34 IP addresses have been newly added to the database, to the firewall's database. And then second one source that he will be looking on is open source project. So he will search for any other databases or any open source resources to check if there is any IP addresses that is filtered by PostgreSQL. And then 15 IP addresses and then 4 domains have been found. Let us assume. So these are all the various informations that he have collected from different sources. And he is looking for the malware information sharing platform, which we have just seen, which is MISP. And using that MISP platform, he is trying to collect the hash values of the malware, which is targeting the PostgreSQL. And then he is actually looking at the vendor threat report as well. And then he is just strategic insight distilled into the technical IOCs. He is just looking into what are all the indicators of compromise. So all these things that he is collecting, and one new malware has been identified. So this is the raw information that he has collected from various sources. So that's his second stage. So he has decided what to do, and he has collected enough information about based on the first phase. And the next stage is obviously processing, because all the informations that we collect may not be useful for us. So he have to normalize and correlate this particular information. So here, normalizing ensures that the data from various sources is standardized into a standard format. So first of all, what he will do is he will try to normalize all the data, and he will convert different data sets into a same format. So for that, definitely he might be writing a script in Python or any other languages, so that it will automatically parse information from the raw data, and it will give us in a neat and organized way. And the second stage is correlation, which involves identifying the connection and links between data from different sources and threads. So he is actually correlating what are all the involved links between the data and then the sources. And it can also help identifying the contradictions. So not all informations are useful, as said already. So they will be having a benign tag also. So there might be having a benign tag in one history versus malicious label in new data today, which means once it might be a benign source, which means it might be an authenticated source or trustable source, but now it might have been turned into an malicious one. So this sort of contradictions has also to be taken into account. Okay. And then this is the process. So he just normalizes the indicator syntax, and then he correlates the duplicates if there is any duplicates that exist, because he collected information from various 4 different sources. There might be some duplications of data. So he will just remove all the duplicates, and then he will tag each and every data, like which intel has to be reached which level. For that, he will be using the TLP, and we know what TLP is. And it actually converts the final set of intel into 2 action files. So these 2 action files will be a firewall blocklist.tsv. He will come up with a new set of IP addresses, which has to be given to the firewall unit, and the firewall has to block all these IP addresses. So that's one actionable file that he will come up with. And maybe the EDR hash rules. So EDR hash rule, there might be, if he, because in the previous step, he has identified some hash values related to the new malwares. So he will be identifying the malwares, and then that will be added to the EDR list. So YAR means YARA rule set. YARA is a complete infrastructure tool which will help us to block the endpoints. So like the malicious files, it's like an endpoint framework. So once this is done, the fourth one is analysis. So here, actually, he is trying to turn the information into the judgments. So blocking every indicator or artifact suspected for being malicious may create a room for false positive. I hope you can understand this line, because whatever the intel says, if you are blocking all the IP addresses, then sometimes it may disrupt the basic communication itself. right? So that's why it is not possible to block all the IP addresses. There might be some other technique which has to be implemented, but not blocking the IP address could not be the best way. So, and then Alex would need to evaluate the relevance and matching between the intel gathered and then the current status of investigation. So first he has to check whether the intel is matching with his investigation or not. So he will just again go to some other information and he will try to analyze whether all the intels that he has collected is relevant and it is affecting his target asset or not. So this results in providing answers to the questions which he just formulated in phase 1. So just to reiterate the questions, first question is to identify which external IP addresses and domains are currently being used to exploit. And second question is all about the malware families which is targeting this type of database services. So here he will just find out the firewall indicators. He will again cross-check Splunk query. So over the previous 30 days, is there any communication that has happened on port number 5432 or not? And this information is from the intel that we have gathered. So he will just check his internal resources also. In the previous 30 days, was there any communication that has happened to any of the IP addresses that he has identified? So that is the information that he will collect. And then he will do the hash indicators, which answers the second question. So he will do a reverse search and he will go for the OpenCTI link. And then he will just check if there is any organization that uses exactly the named OBDC driver. And for you to give you what is OBDC driver, it is a software component that allows application to connect and interact with various databases and data sources. So using a standard interface. So that is what something we call it as ODBC, and it is abbreviated as Open Database Connectivity. So it's basically a language which tries to connect different types of databases. That's what something we call it as ODBC. So Alex will grade all these indicators in a priority way. So if the indicator is being seen in the IOC and the local instance is also confirming that this particular IP is being contacted through the SIEM logs, then the severity is really high, because what he has identified from the intel is actually being confirmed with the IOC there. Because the local sighting is also saying that this server is being connected to the malicious IP address which we revealed through the intel. So that has to be highly prioritized, and immediate action is block it very immediately. And medium level is a single trusted source. I have found this information from only one source, but none of the internal logs is actually confirming that any communication is being made, so that it can be marked as medium level. And what can be the action is just in case if it happens in future, an alert can be given. So that's what we can do. And last one is low, which means I have found it indicator only through open source intelligence, but it was not relevant to my system, or I have no traces on my system before 30 days or 48 days, whatever the timestamp that he is analyzing. So I have found this information only through Intel, and there is no sightings of this particular Intel inside my network. Then I will categorize it as low, and then I have to monitor for 14 more days. So just in case if that activity is happening, sometimes attacks may be faster, sometimes attacks may be slow. It may take days together to trigger. So we have to wait until the triggering point, and here 14 days is an arbitrary value. Sometimes we may have to monitor up to a month or years too. So just put it in the monitoring list, and if there is any alert, then we have to investigate it at the high priority. So this is what the actions that the Alex will do at the analysis stage. And finally, coming to the dissemination, now we have just collected information, enriched it, cross-confirmed it, whether it is present inside our system or not. Everything has been done. And once this is done, this intelligence has to be communicated to the right consumers. So here, unused threat intelligence becomes shelfware. You know that, because once you have the intel and it is being, if it is not communicated to the right people, then they may not able to use that. So unused threat intelligence becomes shelfware. So Alex delivers the tailored output like this table. So he will categorize the information and he will pass only the necessary information to the necessary people. So the stakeholder, first for the firewall team. For the firewall team, he will share only the CSV upload file and then the change ticket, which means he will raise a ticket and then he will say that these are all the IP addresses which has to be added to the firewall block lists. And they own the block rule. The ticket is to document risk and indicator of the TLP. So there it has been mentioned. And then he will communicate to the endpoint team because there is someone who is maintaining the EDR. So for that, he will send that YARA file, which we have created. He have created two files. So one is the list of IP addresses to be blocked, and one is the list of rules which has to be implemented in the EDR. So the second set of the second file has to be given to the endpoint team. So YARA rule will actually do the console team. So load the rules into the policy, which is what actually expected by the EDR team to do so. And what will he feed to the CTA platform? So cyber threat intelligence platform, he will just upload all the indicators with the full tag so that anyone else who is doing this threat intelligence will come to know that this is the updated state of investigation. So he is just putting all the informations into a platform which maintains all the relationships. So that is what something we call it as CTI platform. And one of the freely available platform is OpenCTI. So next one is he will prepare a 200-word summary and that he will be disseminating it to the management people. So a 200-word summary in a weekly cyber risk memo. And then this report shows the return of investment for the process. So this will actually tell the management people that you have invested this much of amount in threat analysis, and based on the threat analysis, this much of risk has been brought down, and this has benefited the company to function effectively, so that he can quote the profits also. So he proves that the management, whatever the amount was invested in this process, is beneficial for them. So management will also be happy for granting even more to further strengthen the security posture. So at an outset, he is actually tailoring the depth to the audience. He is not fleshing all the information to everyone because it will be overwhelming. The people sitting at the management may not be interested in knowing what is the exact TTP, what is the IP address that was blocked. So people sitting at the management, they will not be interested in knowing all these things. So all they are interested is, I've spent this much of money. What was the outcome? What was the profit? So for that, he is giving only the report. So this is tailoring the information, which is very crucial in disclosing the threat intelligence report. So you have to disseminate only the required information to the required people. So next one is feedback. So here in this feedback, 2 weeks later, metrics and reports from the firewall and EDR report shows that the progress of establishing is very effective, and the workflow has also been very effective. See, you can see that the median dwell time of PostgreSQL for the brute force is 48 hours, which means a normal database may allow 48 hours of attackers to conduct the brute forcing. After that, it will just block him. Or it will take 48 hours for an attacker to brute force a basic server. But here in the first cycle, it was 0 hours. There was no traces of any brute forcing because all the security measures have been implemented already. And then false positive rate on the new IP blocks. So there was no false positives. So all the IP addresses that was identified through the threat intelligence is valid, and there is no disruption in the services too. So which means that it is an profitable analysis for the company. So, and then, as I said, it is a threat intelligence cycle. So it will be reiterated. So in the next sprint, he will add other threat parameters. Earlier, he framed 2 questions, right? So now he will be adding few more indicators. So like, what is the DNS? What is the assert group? What is the threat group? Like that, he will be adding it, and then he will be running the threat intelligence again. So this life cycle will keep on continuing, and this applies to every asset you just wanted to protect. So this cycle will tell you how exactly this threat intelligence life cycle is happening. So if you want to provide a threat intelligence for a particular asset, these are all the exact steps that we have to follow. And this is exactly the life of every SOC analyst or any threat analyst who is working on any companies inside the cybersecurity domain. So they will be keep on monitoring the alerts. They will be keep on monitoring if there is any threats that is coming up. So they must be very vigilant 24/7. So even a small mistake may cause a huge loss to the company. So with this, we are just covering the cyber threat intelligence life cycle. So that is completed. And the next one is the natural next step is to understand the TTP of the adversary. Now we have just identified all the indicators of compromise. So do we have any frameworks to map the TTP? Yes, and that is where actually the cyber kill chain and mid-tier attack framework will come into the picture. So this cyber kill chain, which was one of our topic for the discussion, actually comes into the picture at this stage of cyber threat intelligence. So when we talk about cyber kill chain, so what cyber kill chain basically is? So cyber kill chain is a structured model developed by Lockheed Martin. So in 2011, adapted by traditional military kill chains. Okay, so to describe the phases of cyber attack, this was actually derived from the actual traditional attack phases, how and real attacks will happen. Same kill chain process. Say for an example, when a military is going on a strike, then they will have an attack plan, and they will have a cycle. They will have the set of steps to follow. Lockheed Martin is the one who just actually proposed what we follow in traditional warfare can also be derived, and it can also be adapted for cyber attacks as well. So that is what his proposal, and it is most valid in most of the situations. So it breaks down the complex attacks into 7 distinct steps. We will walk you through all the steps one after the other. And where did this cyber kill chain come from? So this particular cyber kill chain, the origin is Lockheed Martin Corporation, who is an giant in aerospace and defense. And the purpose of this is originally created to analyze and prevent APTs, Advanced Persistent Threat Actors. And its basis is, it is actually adapted from military concepts of targeting and engagement using the kinetic warfare, which means the traditional warfare, the gun, missiles, everything. So what actually this cyber kill chain will look like? So these are all the 7 stages. So first stage actually talks about the reconnaissance. So what is actually mean by reconnaissance? Reconnaissance is all about gathering data on the targets. And then the second stage is weaponization. Once the relevant information have been gathered, then the next stage goes to the weaponization. So this weaponization is all about creating a deliverable malicious payload. So we have to create a payload which can be delivered to the target. So this process is something what we call it as weaponization. And the third stage is delivery. Now we have some bomb to throw, that is weaponization. We have created a bomb and somehow we have to deliver the bomb. It's actually, there is no use of keeping the bomb with us itself. So we created it and we have engaged it to throw it somewhere to create some destruction on the target. So somehow we have to find a delivery mechanism. So delivery mechanism is the next stage, sending the weaponized bundle to the victim through any source. It can be email, it can be USB, or it can be anything. And then once it is delivered, then the exploitation will happen. So it will search for the vulnerability because you have actually created the weapon based on some vulnerability. So that has to be exploited there. So it will exploit the vulnerability by executing some codes or by tricking the operating system through some means. It has to be done. And then that is exploitation stage. And once that is done, it has to install, which means it has to install a malware on the target system. That doesn't mean that every time it has to be a malware, but here in cyber kill chain, it is assumed that it will install a malware. and that particular malware will give the access to the command and control so that the attacker can able to send instructions to that malware. So this installation will help the attacker to send instructions to the system. So that's how this next phase will be. So command and control is nothing but it is a type of channel. The attacker will communicate with the infected machine. And the last one is actions on objective. This is like achieving your goal. For what purpose you have entered inside the machine. So this is the entire flow of cyber kill chain. So first one, you have to gather information. After gathering the information, based on the information that you have gathered, you might have identified some vulnerabilities. Based on that vulnerabilities, you have to come up with a weapon, that is weaponization. And once you are done with your weapon, somehow you have to deliver that weapon to the target. Once the weapon is delivered to the target, your weapon should actually try to exploit that and exploit the vulnerability for which it was designed for. So once that was exploited, then the weapon should install a malware, and this malware will establish a connection to the attacker's command and control through which he can pass instructions, and through that instruction the attacker will achieve his goal. This is the complete process of any attack that is happening on the cyber world. So now we can this is a table which will give you an basic information or just a recap of what we have seen so far. So next one is, why is cyber security, why is cyber kill chain is very critical in cyber security? Because it is very critical for defenders and it is very critical for the ethical hackers too. So if you are from the blue team, then it will give you a situational awareness. So like at which phase that your company is vulnerable to, and it will give you a defense in depth. So defense in depth means what are all the various stages that has to be defended. Fine. So you have to give least privileges, and then you have to break the chain at any point. So say for an example, if you want to break the chain at the reconnaissance level itself, you should not allow any information to be available on the public internet, because through reconnaissance he can collect the email IDs of the employees. So he may collect email IDs of employee from the LinkedIn, from the official website, or by contacting him through phone also. So you should not reveal your official information. That leads to phishing. So if you want to break the chain at reconnaissance level itself, you should not disclose any information, but that is not that much effective. So you have to you have to find out some other way to break the chain. And threat hunting. So you have to spot the attacker behavior, and then if you see the same pattern again, you can block it. That's how the defenders will work. And for the SOC analyst, we have just in the process of discussing the life of SOC analyst. So he actually maps the log and alerts the kill chain phases for better triage. Better triage means he will just categorize it, he will contaminate it, and then container it, and the key idea. So if you break just one stage, and the chain will thwart the attack. So even if the attack fails at any of this stage, say for an example, there is a vulnerability, he has weaponized a particular exploit for that vulnerability, but he could not deliver it inside the system. So you are breaking the chain at the delivery phase. Only if he delivers, that will become exploitation. So you are breaking or you are securing your network so that no one else outside the network can able to send anything inside your network. So you are breaking the chain at delivery stage. So that actually stops the attack, the entire attack. And then for ethical hackers, it is very much useful for emulating the attacker behavior. So if I just want to emulate threat emulation, we have talked in the very first slide. So we just can able to do the emulation part here. And it helps structure the assessment, and then reporting becomes clearer when it maps to CKC. And then a good penetration testers will actually think like the attackers. So the great one maps their activity to the kill chain to simulate the real world threats. Most of the red teaming activities is based on the cyber kill chain and the Metair attack framework. And let's map the famous WannaCry attack. And there is a much more important thing which I just wanted to cover. So for the time being, I will just skip this WannaCry attack analysis. But anyway, I will share this. This particular slide will tell you how exactly this WannaCry attack has happened, and how do we map it with the cyber kill chain. So I can walk you through the slide, but I just wanted to show you how to map an attacker behavior. And this WannaCry attack can also be monitored. Yeah, so I can tell you how can someone monitor this information from the Metair attack framework too. So for the time being, considering the time, I'm just skipping this particular part alone. So moving on to the Metair attack, this is how the so this is how the ransomware attack has happened, and finally I might have mapped it with the Metair attack frame. I might have mapped it with each and every stage of cyber kill chain. So here there are some limitations with cyber kill chain, which means it is more linear, and the real world attacks may not follow the sequential stage. Fine. So most of the attacks may not involve the malware itself, but in the cyber kill chain, we have seen that every attacker is using a malware and assumes that the malware is involved. That was I was trying to say. And there are some other frameworks, and in order to make it this cyber kill chain attack even more effective and accurate, we bring in another framework called Metair attack framework. And this framework will actually help you to track down the entire process of the attacker. And while collecting the threat intelligence also, I was telling you that we will be collecting the threat intelligence from the Metair attack framework. So let me just introduce you to the Metair attack framework. So here is a Metair attack framework. I think you are looking at my browser screen now. I have just switched from my PPT.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, sir. So this is the Metair attack framework, which will give you, I'm just zooming out so that you can see the every stage. So here, the first row that you are seeing here is what something we call it as tactics. And you know what tactics are. So tactics are the goals. Correct. So here, when I just zoom in, you can see that the first tactic is reconnaissance. Reconnaissance is about collecting information. Resource development is about what are they trying to do, what are all the resources that they are developing to conduct their attack, and how are they getting their initial access. So initial access is getting the foothold. Like that, you have these many tactics to follow. So these are all the tactics, and this Metair attack framework will give us a structured format to communicate. So for you to give an analogy, if I am teaching about the malware, let's take the same ransomware attack. I might have taught you what are all the sequential steps that ransomware, that WannaCry attack have completed, and you might have learned it, and you are delivering the same content to some other person. So there might be difference in what I delivered, and there might be difference in what you understood, and there might be difference in what you are conveying it to your network. So the entire sequence may change. There might be a possibility of miscommunication. So if we follow this Metair attack framework, this will give you a code for each and every tactics and technique, so that we will not deviate from our assumptions. There is no spot of assumptions. When I say initial access, it is initial access. And when I say the method that they are using is phishing, it is phishing. Correct. So precisely we can say what are all the techniques and what are all the stuffs that they have actually followed. So that is the purpose of this Metair attack framework, and this is the matrix representation of Metair attack framework. And I can show you 3 use cases of this Metair attack framework. So the first row represents the tactics and followed by the techniques. Let me zoom into only one technique for us to understand. Here we know reconnaissance. What is reconnaissance? It is all about collecting informations, right? So what are all the techniques that an attacker will use to collect information? That is what listed below here. So the first technique that he may use. So there are totally 10 techniques reported in the literature so far. All the attacks will follow only this 10 techniques. So first technique is active scanning. Active scanning is like connecting to your system and collecting information. That is what active scanning is. And there is something called as sub-techniques. Sub-techniques is active scanning can be done in these 3 different ways. When you just click on this gray icon, you can also get, if you are just also following along, I will just share this link in the chat box so that you can also see at your window. Yeah. So here you can see that active scanning can be done by scanning an IP block. He can scan an IP, or he can scan for any vulnerabilities, or he can scan for any word list. By using the word list, he can actually able to scan it. Correct. So these are all the different active scanning techniques that he is following. Active scanning is a technique, and then scanning IP block is a sub technique. What is he scanning? He's scanning for IP. What is he scanning? He's scanning for any vulnerability. That's what it means. And second technique that an attacker could follow is gathering victim host information. Like, what is the machine that I'm using? What is the operating system that I'm using? All these things can be done. Like that, you can see there are 10 techniques. So what are all the usual informations that an attacker would collect? I can show you. Phishing for information. So spear phishing service, spear phishing attachment, spear phishing link, and spear phishing voice. They can call you and tell you that your company is experiencing an attack. I might have sent you a report, but that report may have some malicious content. They might have sent you some links to click. They might have sent you some attachments to download. They might have sent you some services which runs at the back end. These are all the various phishing related information. And gathering information about the victim, here is what very interesting things comes in. So victim information, they can collect my business relationship, they can collect my role, what am I here. So how we can explore the practical aspect of cybersecurity attack? Could you share any good resources or references with us? Yes, sir. So this particular slides will itself have resources from where you can gather this cyber security attacks. And there is something which is called as attack navigator. Through that attack navigator, you can actually map the particular threat group process. This will tell you what are all the process that every attacker can happen. Okay. So what we can do is, this will help us to see what are all the techniques and what are all the tactics and what are all the techniques. And there is something called as attack navigator. So here is the link, which is completely open source and which is free to use. Let me just share this link as well. So this particular attack navigator will help you to map how this particular attackers will work. So what I can do is I can just click on create new layer, which will give me a blank layer. So you can just trace for which attacker you are following, which means you are trying to collect intel for any enterprise, which is for any attack group that is targeting the company, or any mobile type of attacks, or any ICS type of attacks, which means critical infrastructures. So any power grids, and then manufacturing plants, water treatment plants, all these type of attacks comes under this category. So most of the time we will experience the attacks on enterprise attacks. So which is targeted for big organizations like Google, IBM, and some sort of
Dr.
companies.
Jay Ganesh?
Yes, yes, sir.
So I'm having one small question actually.
Please, sir.
2 days before in US and Europe, all the flights disturbed because of the cyber attack.
Yes, sir.
So can you just tell the things which you have told us, so many type of cyber attack? So which comes under which type of attack it is? How they able to solve that?
So what sort of attack is that, sir? I have to
Recently,
get
the
some
flights were
information.
completely disturbed, sir. In US, Europe, all that cyber attack.
That's right, sir. I'm aware about that attack, but I have to gather some more information on that, because
thank you. Because practically I want to know. Thank you.
Fine. Yeah. So here we can just collect information about the enterprise attack. So when we just go to this enterprise attack, that will give you a blank format of the matrix that we have seen. So here actually I can highlight what are all the tactics and techniques which is followed by a particular attack group. So that can be followed here. So what I can do is you can always just go to this layer controls, and in this layer control, you can just search for, you can just in the selection controls, you can just search for any attack groups. So let us say I am interested to know how the Lazarus group will work. So Lazarus is a very famous South Korean attack group. So I just wanted to know how these groups are actually working. So here I can just search for Lazarus, and when you just scroll down, you can actually see that the thread groups, under the thread groups category, you can find that the Lazarus group is there. And when you just click on this select, you can actually see that all the techniques and procedures which is followed by this Lazarus group has been selected. So I can just close this, and I can go to layer control, and I can give some color options. So just to highlight this, I will just give it from red to green, and I may set the top value to 0 and highest value to 3. And I can go for technique control here. And in this technique control, you can assign a score. So here you can find scoring. And when you just assign 3, all the thing have been highlighted. So this is just a scoring value. When I just press 1, it will show amber. When I just press 2, it will show light green. And when I say 3, it will show green. This is just a coloring factor. So this technique can be used to highlight what are all the various techniques that is being followed by this attack group. So this is one use case of this website or for this particular interface to check how exactly this Lazarus group is executing. So from stage 1 to the last stage. So when you observe here, they are doing reconnaissance basically in 2 forms. What are they doing? They are trying to gather information. So when I just zoom in, you can see this, their reconnaissance technique is gathering victim identity. And even specifically, they are trying to collect only the email addresses. So this particular Lazarus group are interested in collecting the email address. And then they are also interested in collecting the roles of the employees. That is how they start collecting their information. And all these informations have been deployed or integrated into this particular platform through some threat intel reports. So based on that, we are getting this conclusion. So now I can easily know the attack pattern of each and every attack group. So like that, we can also highlight it for any sort of malwares as well. So we can just do it for the malwares as well. So what I can do is, and one more use case of this particular website is, let's say you have one blank template, or let us say that I want to compare 2 attack groups, and I just wanted to find out if there is any similarities between these 2 attack groups. So when you just want to compare the attack pattern, this particular platform will come really handy. So what I have to do is I will just have to add another layer, and then I will just select the same layer again. And this time, instead of Lazarus group, I will just search for some other group. So let me just search for any financial group. So there are lots of groups. So there are 44 thread groups whose name starts with FIN, but I am interested in analyzing the financial group 10, FIN 10, which means their name is not explicitly written anywhere, but there is a group in the name of FIN 10. So this type of group is targeting only the financial sectors. So I will just select these vectors here, and then I will go to the layer controls again. I will give the color options, but this time I will have to give the same color options. I will just set the same values like in the first values. So 1 to 3. And then I can go to the techniques and control, and I'll give the scoring value to 1. So what I can do is I'm just highlighting all the techniques and procedures which is followed by this group. So you can see that layer represents the tactics and techniques used by the Lazarus group, and layer 1 represents the tactics and techniques followed by the financial 10 group. Now, if I combine these two layers, I can actually able to get what are all the similarities. So I can create another layer, and this time I have to create layers from other layer, which means we are not creating a new layer. We are creating a layer based on the previous two layers. You can just click on here, and you just have to select the same mid-tier attack framework. The recent version is 12. I'm sorry, for 17, I guess. Fine. Yeah, so Enterprise Mid-tier Attack 17, that's the latest version. And score expression, what you can do is you can just give the mathematical values here. So I just have to add two values, A plus B. You can see that layer A is represented as, sorry, first layer is represented as A, and second layer is represented as B. So A plus B is going to give you new thing. I mean, new layer, which is a combination of layer 1 and layer 2. So when you just click on the create layer, you can actually see both the layers combined together. And wherever you have an higher threat score, which means that it is an similarity between both the attacks. So here you can actually see the score is 1, and here the score is 3. If it is 1 or 3, which means that is actually either it is from, see, wherever you see the score is 1, it means it is from FIN10. And wherever you see the score is 3, it is from the Lazarus group. And wherever you see the score is 4, which is 3 plus 1, 4, which means that this is the similar step which is followed by both the groups. So that is how we can actually able to find out the similarity between the two attack groups. And that is the very big use case of this attack. I mean, mid-tier attack framework. So you can just map the cyber kill chain process and then the mid-tier attack framework over here using this particular frame. So moving back. So these are all the frameworks which I just wanted to cover. This is a theoretical part. So I just walked you through the process of how to map the tactics, techniques, and procedures and all those stuffs. And I will ensure that this presentation reaches you through the coordinators of this program. And this presentation has all the details which you just wanted to. But I had plans to walk you through the Open CTI Intel as well. But anyhow, you will get all the informations. So yes, I think it's already 9:30. Maybe we can stop here. And this resources will be shared with the people, which will contain all the tools. And from here, it is self-exploration only. So maybe I can give you my email ID. So if you have any if you have any doubts or any clarifications, you can please feel free to write to my email ID. So that's my email ID. I'll be happy to explain. So with that, I think we can wind up this session. So thank you all for the patience listening. And once again, I would like to thank the coordinators for giving me this opportunity. So thank you all once again.
Thank you, sir. So as we come to the end of the session, if there is any queries, please, participants, please.
Hello, sir. This is Naushad Ali.
Yes, sir.
In most of the institutions, there is no cyber forensics lab, sir.
Okay,
I think most of them is theoretical only.
Most of the things are theoretical only.
Most of the institutions, cyber forensics
Okay, sir.
lab, maybe in IITs, maybe it is there. But
Yes, sir.
most of the colleges, no forensics lab.
Yes, sir. So to establish a cyber forensic lab, Dr. Ebin will be the right person. I think he is delivering the session for you tomorrow, I guess. I came to know from the schedule share. So Dr. Ebin is heading the cyber forensics labs at IIIT Kottayam. So we have a dedicated lab, and we have a dedicated equipments for mobile imaging and then the memory imaging, and we have a separate workstation. And Alibi Technologies is the one who.
About IIT, sir.
Then.
No, sorry to interrupt. I am not talking about IIT, sir. No, it's private sector.
Sir, forensics is something which a private sectors cannot do, because forensics is something which is more relevant to law enforcement agencies. To convict a criminal, if there is an seized product, say for an example, an iPhone or any electronic device. So law enforcement agencies will go to the forensic labs and then they will try to capture if there is evidences that can be found out from his mobile. So it's more relevant to the law enforcement agencies. So private sectors, even if they have that specific or that costly tools, it might not be that useful for them. And any report which is given by the private sector cannot be produced in court also.
No, sir. For students to show the laboratory or labs, most of the, even I think private universities, they don't have, to my knowledge.
Okay, sir. Actually, what's your question? You say that most of the private universities is not having forensics lab.
Private universities or private institutions, to my knowledge.
Okay, sir.
Especially, we will focus on the theoretical only.
Okay. So what's your question? Complete that. You are focusing on theoretical. You want me to tell you or to guide you how to establish a lab at your institution, or what's your point?
My intention is, I think most of the private universities, for that we want, so it is for like a whole theoretical.
You need to go to private sector and see the forensics lab.
I think maybe some colleges.
Sir,
or
your voice
universities, they are
got
having.
broke in between. I could not get you properly.
Maybe some of the universities or institutions they have, but I'm telling about the this reality on the ground.
Okay. Fine, sir. Sir, if you want to establish any lab or if you want to visit our forensics lab, you are free to visit. So you can just pay a visit to our institute. So we will be happy to walk you through our lab and we will explain you what's the stuff that we have. And we can help you out if there is anything which you have to do with the forensic stuffs.
Thank you,
to your students also. And you are from which institute, sir?
I am from Mohanlal University.
Sorry, sir?
Mohanlal University, Tirupati.
Mohanlal University. From?
Mohan Babu.
From which state? Right.
If any more queries from the participant side, you can use this opportunity.
Madam, actually, I am Dr. Ganapati. So
Yes, sir.
We hope there is not any queries from the participant side. So may I invite
Ma'am,
Ms.
sir.
Celine M, co-coordinator of this Adel FDP, for the
madam.
vote of thanks.
Madam,
Ma'am, please.
one question, please.
Okay, sir.
Actually, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Coverage is very much
Ma'am,
useful, sir.
hope I'm audible.
I am retired from. Yes, are you audible, madam? Hello.
Sir, you are audible, sir. I can listen.
Yes. Actually, I am retired from NIC, sir, as a director.
Oh, sir.
And
Oh, sir.
Yeah,
now I
sure.
am
The
presently
recording
working
and the
as a
slides of the
professor.
session will be shared in the group.
No, madam, 1 second. Actually,
Celine ma'am, hope I'm audible.
as far the software is concerned, actually, sir, whether
Yes, sir.
autopsy is better or FTK is better, sir, in usage, digital forensics, or disk or
Yes, sir.
memory or something like that.
Yes. So I feel that
Celine, ma'am?
autopsy will be good, sir.
Am I
Open
audible?
source autopsy.
Yes, sir. Because you can tweak the soft, because it is an open source, so
I
that
think
we
she
can
has met with some
tweak the
network issues.
parameters.
Dear participants, hope I am audible.
Bismil, wait
Yes,
1
ma'am.
minute.
Yes, ma'am.
Ganpati sir is asking some
Someone
queries.
please let me know. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Dear
Thank you, sir.
participants.
Thank you for your good question, good answer, sir.
Yeah,
Autopsy,
yes.
because I'm telling my students to use that. Here
Yes,
I'm
yes,
just a second job of professor in MGR University, Chennai.
Okay.
So they are using. They're taking classes for cyber security.
Ha.
Thank you.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Okay. So that was a network glitch happened from my end. Hope I'm audible now.
Yes,
Yes,
ma'am.
ma'am.
you are.
Yes. Sorry, that was a network glitch happened from my end. Is there any more queries from the participant side? If there is no more queries, I think we got a query in the chat box.
Cybersecurity using machine learning will be covered in the upcoming sessions, sir. Ma'am, I think you have to take the question. Yes.
Let me go through the question once again. Cybersecurity using machine learning will be covered in the upcoming sessions. Yeah, we have some dedicated sessions regarding this digital forensics, then privacy preservation tools, where they were using certain kind of tools for the cybersecurity purposes. Also, we have sessions on offensive security, then application security, cloud security, and all those kinds of sessions is incorporated in our upcoming days.
Yeah, ma'am.
And
Thank
we
you.
have one more question from in the chat box.
May
May
I
I
know
know
the
the difference
difference
between
malware
the
and
malware and
ransomware?
some words?
Yeah. Ma'am, malware is something which is designed to do something destructful on your machine. When I say destructful, it can be information stealing as well. So malware is something, a piece of software which does malicious things to your system. So this is what something we call it as malware. So when you install a malware, there are several types of malwares. So one type of malware is adware. So that will keep on popping up the ads inside your machine. And there is something called as info stealers. And the purpose of this info stealers is it will steal all the username and password which you have saved on your browser, and then it will upload it to the command and control center. So this is what something we call it as malware, a malicious software. And viruses, worms, all these are types of malwares. So ransomware is something, it is again coming under a concept of malware only, but ransomware is something which will try to encrypt the entire system. Only the objective changes. So ransomware is a type of malware which comes into your machine, and then it will just encrypt your entire hard disk so that it will become unusable. So the attacker will give you a note, only if you pay this much of ransom, then we will be giving you the key for unlocking, and only after unlocking you will have access to your files. So that is the baseline difference between malware and then the ransomware. Can you give brief idea about SOC roles in industry? Sir, I was just telling you that the life cycle of the threat intelligence, that is the actual life of an SOC person who is working in the industry. So he will just target one particular asset, and he will just check what are all the threats that is associated with the target, and based on that he will submit the report. So that is actually the SOC analyst's work. And they will also be monitoring the dashboard kind of thing which I have showed you in the slide, which is OpenCTI. So they will see the dashboard kind of thing, and they will continuously monitor if there is any attack that is coming towards their organization or the clients to whom they are offering their services. So that is how the basic role of the SOC people will be there. And there are different levels like L1, L2, L3. The basic people will just identify the indicators of compromise, and they will just create an alert. And if it is something beyond their scope, which is something added to the firewall, then they will simply escalate that to L2. L2 will do the further analysis on the IOC, and they will take the decision whether it has to be given an alert level priority or block level priority. So this is the basic role or life of any SOC analyst at the company. Brief idea role of, I think I've just answered that. How can students pursue their career in this field? Yes, sir. So students, for them to pursue a career in cybersecurity, they should start with networking. And once they are very familiar with the networking, I would recommend CompTIA Security Plus certification. And once they are done with that certification, they can have some hands-on practice on the platforms like TryHackMe and Hack the Boxes. These types of websites will give them an hands-on experience on how to simulate an attack. Actually, I've planned all these things in the session, but still, these are all the platforms where we can have the hands-on experience. So students can have this as a good start, and they can design their own local environment where they can implement this blue teaming techniques. So that would really help them to get placed, because they have to demonstrate the practical skills to the interviewer.
Sir, I have two questions.
Yes, sir.
One is nowadays everyone using the cloud. So we have some tools, virtual tools, sir. Because even we don't have in some of the institution forensic lab. Whether we have virtual tools based on the cloud, the help of cloud.
Virtual tools means, so tools are there. Simulation tools to simulate what?
Means this about forensics.
No, forensics cannot be simulated, but I just mentioned you there are some. Sir, you are asking for educational purposes, right? Yes, sir. How can your students learn about forensics part? Is there any virtual place to learn about forensics, right, sir? Yes, sir. So there is a platform called TryHackMe. So TryHackMe, tryhackme.com. I've just mentioned it in the chat box. So this is a platform. They will have different modules where they cover wide range of cybersecurity. So they have different rooms or different challenges to solve on red teaming as well as blue teaming. And they have enormous number of rooms for this forensics as well, like Windows forensics, Linux forensics, mobile forensics. There are lots of rooms available. Some are free and some are paid. So by using this platform, the students can actually able to gain practical insights on the forensics part. But this is for educational purposes. This is not an company grade or an industry grade tools that can be deployed in production.
Sir, one more thing about placements
Yes,
in the institutions. Placements institutions, even the student, they will study the cyber security. It may be bachelor's, UG or PG courses. The institutions, they are not going pure cyber security companies for the placements of the students. They are diverting them towards product based like that. What I observed.
Because when it comes to placements, see, cybersecurity is the field which requires practical skills. Though if you just go through the LinkedIn job posting or any job posting portal, they may say that they are looking for an entry-level position. But even for entry-level position, every cybersecurity people are asking for 5 to 10 years of experience. So which means that they are experiencing, they are expecting an implementable level skills, a practical skills, not just the theory. Because they cannot take risk when it comes to cyber security. They cannot train a trainer there. So that is the reason why it is becoming very difficult for a student to land directly into cyber security unless he has a very demonstrable skills. So it is very difficult to place a student in the cyber security frame unless if the student is having a demonstrable skill or a practical skill. So this is very much mandatory. But that's not the case in the product-based one or the service-based one. If it is a product-based one, he must be very familiar with one particular technological stack. So if it is an ML-based company, he must know only Python, and he should know only the necessary packages and then the libraries. So that's the reason.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir. Good session.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. So one question is like, is it possible to get back the data affected by ransomware? If you have a backup, you can retrieve it from the backup, or otherwise, no, you cannot able to retrieve the data. Yeah, there are some keys which is available on the internet, but for that you have to identify which ransomware has got affected. I mean, through which ransomware malware actually your system got infected. If you know the name of the malware, you can just feed the name of the malware and get the keys from internet, and you can try to decrypt it. But we cannot do it from our end. We have to give the hard disk to the experts, and there they have to access the kernel level, and then they have to do that. So 90% you cannot retrieve the data if you do not have the backup. But sometimes if the key what is mentioned on the internet will not work as well. So backup is the only scope and only option to be resistant with the ransomware attacks. Any scope of research that we have learned today, I'm asking for your suggestion as an innovation. Yes, sir. Obviously, there is a big scope on this threat intelligence. So there are AI and ML coming up in this particular field, which will automate the job of every SOC analyst, and you have to come up with a model which will automatically evaluate the threat vectors in the space, and then the necessary the defensive mechanism has to be deployed. So there is a big scope, and there is a big scope in the offensive. Basically, I am from an offensive security side, so this topic is more on the defensive security. It's like intel gathering. So but still there is a good scope on exploit development. So as a red teamer, you have to develop an exploit based on AI and by using AI and ML. And now we talk more about AI agents. So we can build a lot more of AI agents, and then we can just do most of this task in an autonomous way. So this is a very good area. And these are all the AI agents for offensive security, and then AI for threat intelligence are the very recent areas which is actually gaining momentum in the research areas.
Thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. Can I ask one question, sir?
Please, sir.
Sir, what is the role of quantum computing in the modern era of cybersecurity? And one more thing, sir. Cyber forensic is playing important role in modern era, and you don't include it in cyber forensic in your presentation. So,
Sir, cyber
where
forensic, you have a separate session tomorrow. So there, Dr. Ebin will be talking entirely about cyber forensics only. So the topic given for me is cyber threat intelligence and cyber landscapes, threat landscape. So I have just covered that particular topic, and you have a dedicated sessions coming up tomorrow, which is entirely focused on the forensics part. So yes, I do agree.
Sir, one more
Forensics is
question.
becoming, yeah.
Sir, when most of the organizations are using static firewalls, and the IP for that is also static for authentication and this type of thing, then why more organizations are using hardware firewall?
Why most of the organizations are using?
Static IP, sir. Static IP for firewall authentication.
Okay. That depends on organization, sir, because not every organization can go for, because making it dynamic will cause the disruption in the accessing the site as well. So it depends whether the institute can afford for an hardware firewall, then obviously they have to go for an hardware firewall. So bigger institutions will obviously have, and they must have an hardware firewall, provided this firewall must be fed with enough information with the EDRs, endpoint detection agents. So all the endpoints has to be monitored. When I say endpoints, it is all the laptops that is connected to the network and all the servers that is installed on the network. So when you talk about static and dynamic IP, it depends on the infrastructure and depends on the setup and depends on the institution or organization. It's all about the budget. So whether they may implement or they may not implement.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Last person.
Yes, sir.
What about this? So those who are doing cybersecurity, UGRPG, means they will not get jobs in cybersecurity, sir.
No. I'm not telling they won't get job. This particular field have lots of job opportunities, but the only lacking thing is there is a lack of skill set. the cybersecurity is an ever-evolving field. What we read today may become obsolete in 1 or 2 months because technology is evolving in a rapid speed. So the attack and techniques what we learned today may become obsolete. There might be n number of attacks and techniques coming up, and it is emerging, and especially with the development of AI and ML. These AI and ML technologies are in the hands of the malicious actors too. They are also using this AI and ML for sending specially crafted emails, specially crafted malwares. So it is becoming more and more difficult for a person to survive in this cybersecurity field. So it's all about the skill gap. There are lots of job opportunities present. Even in the recent report, it says that there are millions of job posts are vacant in the field of cybersecurity. It's all about the skill gap.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yeah, ma'am.
I think the session is really engaging. We hope all the queries regarding the digital forensics will be cleared on tomorrow. Because we have 2 more exclusive session for digital forensics. So we are really run out of time. So for the queries, we'll share the mail ID of Dr. J. Ganesh sir with the
Sure.
permission from participants. Moving to the vote of thanks. So a very good evening to all. On behalf of the Department of Computer Applications, MES College Marambali, and the organizing committee of this adult FDP program, I extend my sincere gratitude to Dr. S. J. Ganesh sir, Assistant Professor, IIIT Kottayam, for delivering today's insightful session. Sir, as an expert in the cybersecurity domain, you have laid a clear and strong foundation for understanding cybersecurity by introducing us to the cyber threat landscape, cyber threat intelligence, its life cycle, the cyber kill chain, and the Metier attack framework. The clarity with which you conducted these concepts along with your demonstration has enriched our knowledge and provided us with a structured approach to this vast area. Your session has set the perfect tone for the upcoming FDP sessions, and with strong base you have provided today, participants are now better equipped to absorb and connect with the discussion in the days ahead. We thank all the participants for your enthusiastic presence and active involvement. Once again, thank you, sir, for your valuable time, expertise, and contribution in making the first day of this FDP both enriching and inspiring. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. I once again thank Dr. Bismin ma'am and the coordinators for giving me the opportunity. And thank you all the FDP participants for their active participation. Even if it is late night, I'm very glad to see the active participation for this. And I'm sorry for not answering all the questions, or I could not able to take all the questions. My email ID is there with you. So you can just write your questions to my email ID. I would be happy to answer all the questions then. So thank you once again. So thank you all. Good night.
Thanks.
Can I leave the session?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Sir.
sir. Thank you. Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you, ma'am.